Welcome to the open mayor and council meeting. It's in council chambers. I was just told it's been, but who's counting, 18 months since we were last here. Welcome, Councilman Van Eck. It's been a long time. And welcome, former Councilman Bobby Nash. Good to see you. We have a policy in Oakland at the open public buildings. We're asking everyone to wear a mask, and I see some of you are refusing to wear a mask. I was told that I cannot ask you to leave. I would like you to leave or put on a mask for safety of everyone. Wearing a mask doesn't protect you. Wearing a mask protects me from you, and that's what the mask does. So tonight, I'm going to ask the council during our work session to discuss the policy, and if the council so desires, to formulate a true policy of wearing a mask in public buildings. If this council decides that you want people to come in here without a mask, then we'll let the council decide. So at this time, I ask you to turn off your cell phones or put them on mute. I also ask you to refrain from texting because it is discourteous, and it could be construed as a violation of the Open Public Meetings Law. And with that, I'll ask for a roll call.
Mayor Schwager.
Here.
Councilman Bialy.
Here.
Councilman Kamala.
Here.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Here.
Councilman Slasinski.
Here.
Councilman Talamini.
Here.
Councilman Van Eck.
Here.
And I ask everyone, the flag, it's still here. I ask everyone to stand to salute to the flag. Remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law duly announced, advertised, and posted in the municipal building. The meeting will adjourn at 10 p.m. unless a majority of the council members that are present vote to extend the time. And we're going to change the order of tonight, but before you leave and before we do the swearing in the oath of office for the new firefighters, I just want to make one announcement. Fire Prevention Night, it was postponed, and it was originally, I think it was last week, the original night of fire prevention at the Yorkville Firehouse. The rains were horrendous, so very wisely postponed it. It's going to be, hopefully I got this right, Monday, October 25th. 7 o'clock is the poster contest, and then open house starts at 7:30. So bring your children. It's a great experience for all children and adults to go to the firehouse. It's right on Yorkville Avenue. And tonight we're going to have a great committee report. We have some members of the committee, the Cannabis Committee, so thank you for coming tonight, and with the two councilmen for a report. And one more thing, thank you, Councilman Van Eck. Councilman Van Eck has approached me to become, we have an ad hoc committee that I couldn't get started. I couldn't get any of the council people to really get it going, and I just didn't have the time and the ability to do so, but Councilman Van Eck called me and has volunteered to chair the Access for All Committee. So now we're going to move forward. Thank you, Councilman Van Eck. Really appreciate it. I'm going to give you all my files and all my information, and I'm so excited that we're going to have this committee. And with that,
and thank you to the volunteers who stepped up to get this inaugurated, to the entrepreneurial spirit that our residents have that want to come together and do this as a service to individuals with all sorts of disabilities. It's really impressive, and they deserve all the thanks. But
and I have additional names for you.
Good.
So I'm very excited, so thank you. So we're going to do the oath of office before we open to the public, as I promised you. I would do that. So we have Donald Barron, Andrew Reich, and Nicola Sarek. I'm just walking a little slow. So, we have a Bible. Oh, we always have a Bible? What happened to it?
COVID happened.
There you
Uh, Who would like to hold it? Chief, would you like to hold it?
I will hold it unless they want somebody else.
Do you have
in their
family members
to
who want to hold it, or we'll have the chief hold it?
If you want
It's heavy.
somebody else in your
Somebody
family to hold
decide
it,
it's
you
heavy.
can.
Hold it. That's very good.
Okay, so I'm going to do all three together. And when I say "I," you'll say your name, and then the office of, you'll say firefighter. Okay, ready? I,
Aye.
and your names.
Andrew Reich.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and the governments
and the governments
established in the United States
established in the United States
and in this state
and
in
in
this
this
state,
state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully, actually, you're supposed to put your hand, and no, and raise your right hand. I'm a little off tonight, I'm sorry. I'm not starting again. We'll start with I will faithfully and justly
and justly
and impartially
and impartially
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of the office of,
of the office of firefighter,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my
This
ability.
is optional, so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. You are now-
Thank you, congratulations.
Linda, can we get a quick picture with the three?
Sure.
Luke, our family? Can you stay for a picture? I got the
All right. They can hold this, want them to hold their
Nick, just stand
certificates?
next to the mayor?
Yeah.
You guys
hold
stand
your
by the mayor, we'll
certificate.
get a
Donald,
quick picture.
Yep.
Donald,
Yep.
hold this up. And Andrew,
Yep.
and then you'll sign. And Nicole. Okay.
Ready? Just get a little closer. Ready? Smile.
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 Oh, smile.
Ready?
No.
Okay, now you have to sign.
Grant.
Sign. And your address. Don't make you. And so you in Waldwick?
Yeah,
And
16
you're here
years.
too, and now here.
Yeah, I just moved 2 years ago.
Thank
Moved up
you.
You know the Italian Riviera?
there. I do, very well.
I worked there.
Did you really?
I used to.
What's that?
How long ago?
It's a wonderful Italian dill.
Yes.
Oh, it's a restaurant.
For how long?
It's a deli.
Oh,
1990 was the last time you worked there?
you're still talking about the restaurant.
Congratulations.
No, no.
I was
No.
one.
You're supposed to sign.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Have you sign?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's okay. Sign it too. That's okay. And your address.
I was only 50. No.
Oh, it's left here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was only 40.
Okay, so now you have the option of staying or leaving.
All of us?
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do.
Yeah.
Corner table. Good. Good job.
needs to hold on to that. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to open the public.
So moved.
For public comment. Public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Come up to the microphone.
Thank you. Dave Richardson, 320 Rample Valley Road, Oakland. I mean, we have a pandemic going on now, but we also have another problem in this town. Looking back over the history, the last 10, 15 years, we've had 6 incidences where out-of-control cars have crashed through the front of these stores, and 1 death. When is the town going to approach these property owners and have them put up something other than a little curb along there, because cars can jump right over the top of this? I was sitting out on the Starbucks patio one night a few years ago with a couple of friends, and we're sitting there having a cup of coffee, and this kid comes in and he jumps the curb and he ends up on top of the shrubs, this far from us. He could have ran us all over, could have killed us. I went inside, got the manager. They immediately come out and they took all the tables and the chairs right off the patio. That's it. No more sitting out here till we do something. And then within a couple of days, they had the property owner, which is Lincoln Properties up in New York, they come in and put 6 bollards across the front. Okay? But then, in the history of this stuff, we had 1 death at the Notebook,
Right.
2 times after that into the Chinese restaurant, 2 times in Oakland Pizza, right?
Oakland Pizza.
Yes, twice they jumped the curb, right, went to the store. Now, you got another one waiting to happen down at Dairy Queen. They put bollards along the side of the building where the benches are to sit. But when you pull up in front of the place, you got a 3 or 4 inch curb there. If somebody loses control of the car, those are handicap spots. Boom, over the curb, and you've got kids running around. You know Murphy's Law, if it can happen, it will. Well, guess what? They should put some bollards across the front there where these cars pull up in the front and all these kids and people running around waiting for ice cream and stuff like that. Is there a law in this town that can force these property owners to do that? I mean, I've been in this town all my life, and I see this going on, and I'm afraid to go in the stores. You don't know who's gonna come crashing through the window.
As you know, this is public comment, so anybody who's involved in any of these issues writes it down and then we'll speak.
You know, just one other one I forgot.
The lights.
At the funeral home, when the lady lost
No.
When the lady
The
lost
funeral
control of her
home?
car at the post office and backed across Oak Street right into the back door of the funeral home, we're just lucky it wasn't a funeral going on.
When was this?
This was probably about 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh,
I mean, it's a while ago,
You
but
what?
still it happened.
you want me to remember 7, I sometimes forget what happened
But the thing is,
yesterday, so I apologize.
if there was people milling around there for a funeral, or the greeters outside, you know, I mean, this stuff's gotta be looked into. It's too many times, 6 times, 7 times. Right?
You're absolutely correct.
You know, it's, one death is one too many, right?
Or one injury.
So, I mean, can the town force these property owners to do
Well,
anything?
it's not a debate during public
I'll
comment,
respond.
but we'll respond at the end of the public comment.
Okay. Thank
Don't
you.
go away.
Oh, don't go away.
No, I mean, sit down, but don't
Oh.
leave. To hear the answers. Yes.
Hi all, Brenda Keycott, 20 Minnehaha Boulevard. Just a couple comments on the comments that Ms. Schwager just made earlier about the masks. There are provisions in the executive order for exactly 2 different exceptions. One is religious and one is medical exemption. For some of us that have a medical exemption cannot wear a mask. I'd like to know what those accommodations will be, or are we now all of a sudden okay with discriminating against people with medical conditions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, Mayor Council, Peter Keycott, 20 Minnehaha Boulevard, and that was my beautiful wife.
Public buildings.
So, it must be election season. Why? Because this kind of crap is showing up in my mailbox. The promise of downtown revitalization in Oakland continues to be stalled by the inaction of the Republican majority and the governing body. The time for action is now. I see John Bialy, Charles Schwartz, and Tom Connolly on the front of that advertisement. I'd like to ask Mr. Bialy how his 7-year sidewalk project is going. I'd like to note that Eric Kumala and I met in the spring to talk about Station Park and to get a previously failed project by the previous administration. So I'm curious as to where everybody finds the efficacy of this type of mailer. And clearly it bodes Dems versus reps, it seems, because we can't seem to figure out how to get our stuff together in a small little town they call Mayberry, now Oakland, New Jersey. Mr. Bialy, and I know these are rhetorical questions, I won't expect a response, but on October 3rd, Philomena LaForgia and some other campaigners for Philomena LaForgia for her re-election bid as Board of Ed of the Ramapo, president of the Ramapo Indian Hills Regional High School, stopped by your home, knocked on the door, and they were campaigning, right? I wonder if it must, since it must be campaign season, why you would label me as a loudmouth and an anti-masker. Mr. Bialy, that is what a bully does. A bully suppresses ideas that they don't like. A bully labels those who oppose their thoughts. A bully will not allow conversation, but just incites confrontation. And a bully calls people names. This is all verifiable. I have several witnesses who are there. In fact, Mr. Bialy even suggested that he would vote for Ms. LaForgia, which I think is great. I am her co-campaign chair. I think that's a fabulous idea. And are you aware, and I think you are since you're running, that these things can actually be checked, right? The New Jersey actually tracks all of your votes, and we can see who votes for who and when and how, and I think that's phenomenal. So thank you for your support for Mrs. LaForgia. I think that's wonderful. And I want to make sure that when we audit this, that your vote actually counted and you weren't just lying. Because that's what a lot of what I'm seeing on these advertisements right now. I am a pro-choice and I am a pro-constitution person. I am one who, and I know you're already checking my time, but that's okay because I have plenty who will yield their time for me. So, please, don't be disruptive. Please don't be disruptive, Mayor.
We are the council, not the
Please
school board.
don't be, I don't
Just a
care about that.
reminder.
Don't be disruptive.
I'm
Enough,
just reminding
please,
you.
enough. In fact, you know what? I have had enough.
Chief,
I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to leave this up here. Where's the microphone, please?
In the ceiling.
In the ceiling, thank you. I want to hear from the mayor herself.
Remember the mask that you can just buy, which you can't buy because they're out of it everywhere.
What?
It doesn't help you to prevent getting it. It only helps the person who has it from passing it on.
excuse me, I asked you to
mask
turn
is
off
used
all
for
cell
what
phones
you
when
buy.
you walked in.
This is a recording.
Chief,
D90 is 95 to 90. Those are the only masks that really count. Because the masks are fluorescent and there's holes around it.
It's on
all
Facebook, Mayor.
right, all right, fine, 3 minutes are up.
Have
Your other people come up and
contact
speak.
with someone.
Excuse me. Would anyone yield their time for me to speak?
No, it has to be another person.
Mr. Kiko,
Excuse me?
please. The mayor runs the meeting. If the mayor wants...
So now you're suppressing my voice by not allowing me to have someone else yield their time to me?
Can I finish, please? The mayor runs the meeting. You don't decide whether there's a yielding of time or not. The council as a whole will determine if they want to
Thank
extend
you
the
very much.
period of
Would anyone
time.
like to finish my video? Here you go. Thank you. Just press play. It's a VC, it's a recording. It's not a cell phone.
And maybe you could tell us who you are before you
You have to
the
give us your
phone.
name and address.
Michael Elston, Manitou.
I'm sorry, what?
Michael Elston, Manitou.
Thank you. What's the address of Manitou?
78.
Thank you.
Remember the mask that you can just buy, which you can't buy because they're out of it everywhere. It doesn't help you to prevent getting it. It only helps the person who has it from passing it on. So the mask is useless unless you buy these, what is it called, what is the mask? The D90, the 95 to 90. Those are the only masks that really count. Because the masks are fluorescent and there's holes around it, so it doesn't help. And if you do have contact with someone, and have the symptoms, and then you put the mask on,
Tiny.
it's making it worse because it's helping contain it within your space. So that's what I learned.
The one thing on that, in order to keep within the parameters.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Just
Mike.
so everybody's aware, the council will decide later whether or not they want to keep this policy. Yes, anybody else? Hi.
Hey, Brian Riley, 30 Andrew Ave. So, Mayor and Council, I'm here tonight on behalf of the Sustainable Oakland Green Team, and I just want to provide a quick update and an FYI on a big project that we're going to be rolling out over the next couple months. So, first, I just have a question if anybody is willing to just kind of, show a hand. New Jersey recently passed some legislation banning polystyrene, so think styrofoam containers, plastic containers, to-go containers, things like that, utensils, and also plastic bags. And they passed that legislation, and that's actually going into effect May 4th, 2022. I was just wondering if anybody's known about that, or is it the first time you're hearing about it?
I've heard about it.
You've known about it? Okay.
It's in the news.
Okay, it's in the news, good. So that's good. So we want to provide some education to the local businesses here in town. There's 30 plus food locations here, so restaurants, to go, fast food places, etc. So we're working with the Environmental Commission and also the Community of Commerce, which is great. So we're all banding together to roll out this program. We're calling it the Styrofoam Free Business Program. So it's a program that was adopted actually from the Sustainable Jersey Hub. So other towns in the county have successfully adopted it. But we figured there's no better time than now to roll out something like this with the impending legislation. So in the next couple months, we're going to be getting in front of 30 plus food locations here in town. And one, we're going to be alerting them of the upcoming ban, right? Some people may not actually know. And then two, we're going to provide mentorship to them, so ultimately we can help them find sustainable and environmentally friendly options to switch to. Because the last thing we want is them to switch to something almost equally as bad as styrofoam. That's not good for anybody. Styrofoam's bad for people, it's bad for the environment, bad for our landfills. So we're going to be kicking this off in November. We have volunteers hitting the pavement from all three organizations, plus we're going to reach out to Indian Hills High School, the National Honor Society folks there, environmental classes, there's a club up there. So we would love to get the borough involved in this. We would love your support, some co-marketing support as well, as we're rolling into 30 plus businesses and potentially other businesses even outside of that. Could be Mayor Schwager's law office too, auditing, seeing what she is working with and what we can switch her to. So, as an immediate follow-up coming out of this meeting, I'd like to invite you all to a Zoom meeting where we're going to take you guys through the full plan in detail, and just be on the lookout for that link. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, haven't seen you in a while.
Oh, yeah. Good evening. Michael Pritchard, 23 Calumet. I got two small things. If you go on Hiawatha, in front of 8 Hiawatha, where they just did a pole transfer, but they left about 8 feet of lumber hanging in the air. Now, that's definitely a safety hazard, because if that comes down, somebody's going to get killed.
I'm sorry, what did you say they left?
About 8 feet of telephone pole hanging in the air.
Oh,
They did a pole, what's called a spot transfer. If that comes down, somebody's going to get killed. And there's a lot of traffic on that thing. It's at 8 Hiawatha.
Are the wires connected to it?
The cables are,
Okay.
but that's what's holding that up. What they did was they topped the pole. See, I used to be a lineman. They topped the pole, then they cut it at the bottom, and there's nothing on the bottom. What the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
Now, the second thing, I watched the council meeting at the last one, and there was a good spirited debate. That's good. However, there was a lot of things that people were just running off about, like the statute that deals with this. I have it right here. That's a statute that the governor had to go by.
What is the subject matter?
we can't see that far.
The subject matter is
Could you just read the headline?
Health and vital statistics, the declaration of public health emergency. It's in 26 of 1330. It's right there. That's how they went by. Now, as for the executive order, I went through all the what, the wherefores and so forth like that. And on page 3 at the top, it explains what they're supposed to do. with it. It's quite clear what you're supposed to do. Although it deals with schools, it doesn't matter. After all, a building is a building, right? Now, the council voted for masks.
Incorrect.
Well, whatever. At that last minute, it was 4-2. The thing about that is, you dodged a bullet. And I say that you dodged a bullet because down in Tom's River, what we were going through, they've already gone through. And what happened was they had to close down their schools. They had a debate, like you people had the last meeting. And it was a good debate. But they had to close down. He says, and now they open it back up because the virus got into that, into that school system. Now, it's one thing to stand there and say, do remote testing, remote schooling. But what happens if that virus gets into Borough Hall? How in the Sam hell are you going to run this town when you have to shut down the Borough Hall? Tell me how you're going to do it. You can't. So that means you should be masking up with this stuff. Now, I'm also a little bit concerned about sort of masking up because this year here, health-wise, for my wife, has been annus horribilis. That's 2 words, annus horribilis. That's how bad it's been. So when you stand there and you're talking about masking up, it's to protect. I mask to protect you. And you, and you, and you, all of you. And therefore, you should be protecting me. Also, too, I have a thing of like, I'm not narcissistic. Because next door to me, there's a little 3-year-old girl and a 6-year-old boy. And on the other side of me, I do this for a guy. I mow his back lawn.
I apologize, but you are over.
I'm over? Well, same as I go down a little bit further, there's a grandparent there on the other side of them. And I hope he has the life, the time, that he would be able to hold his great-grandchildren one of these days.
Thank you.
So here, can I bring this up?
Absolutely. We'll
There it is.
distribute on the
That's
council.
what it was.
Thank you. Anybody else? Motion to close, oh, I'm sorry. You have to make copies and distribute.
Charlie D. Palmer, 40 Nicole
Hi.
Hi. Yesterday I called the mayor and Mr. Kuntz asked the status of Alderman Brook. To make a long story short, they sent John Dominic, the town engineer, over to my house this morning and we talked. And he gave me several points to write an email to the fellow neighbors on Alderman Brook. Question to you is, you were copied on my email, Richard was copied on my email. So just before I came to the meeting today, and I wasn't planning to speak, there was a letter replying to my email from Lou Levy, where he refuted everything. And he made it sound pretty bad. Did you get that email?
No, I did not, but Mr. Kunz will give a report at the end of this on that,
Okay,
and then we'll talk.
all right, thank you.
We will talk. I did not read the email, I'm sorry, I never got to the email afterwards.
Hi, Judy Paritra, 44 Nokomis Avenue. And I'm sure you visited the area, and I wasn't going to speak at all. But the concern that I have is it is deteriorating the property that Charlie has. It is going on other properties all along that Alderman Brook. And I'm afraid that we're just going to start losing property lines, and you get another good storm or two like we had the most recent 2 storms, and it is going to be devastating to those homes there. And I'm about 3 houses from the lake, so I'm 2 doors from Charlie.
Right,
So-
we walked along the.
Right. So right now, Charlie, little by little, is losing more property. So it's going to end up losing more property
And on
to
the
the
other
house.
side. On the
Yeah,
other side.
it's just going to keep going down. But it's not just by me or by Charlie. it seems to be up and down the brook. I'm on the lower end along with other families. And what's going to happen one day is we're just going to have that brook go right into my house
We
and the
won't let that
property.
happen. We
Well-
have the engineers, we have John Yakivic working, we have Nick Agnoli, who is going to be here tonight, but it's his wife's birthday. So Mr. Kuntz has a report he will give afterwards, and then we'll talk, and we'll meet by Almond Brook again.
Okay, I appreciate it very much, but I just wanted to voice my deep concern
And you should.
that I don't want it to get to be devastating where 5 years from now you're buying our houses. You know, we love Oakland, we want to stay here, but that is something that needs to be really heightened and taken care of right away. So thank you for
Thank you.
your support.
We'll be there again. We're not forgotten you.
All right, well, I'm just as a resident, another storm comes through and it's just disheartening to see what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Joe Valenti, 18 Whittier Lane. I'm here for two reasons. Number one, to support to Mr. Van Eck's resolution.
What resolution?
The one he's going to propose. Excuse me?
Which one?
Regarding the New Jersey Reproductive Act, or Freedom Act, I believe it's called. So I'd like to lend my support to that as a voter. And number two, I'd like to follow up on something that was discussed, I guess it was last year, because we were doing this via video, when Mr. Levy was on the council regarding a potential recycling center in town.
It was investigated.
Okay, I guess you'll have a result then. Very good, thank you.
No one else? Motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just a couple of things. The ballots. But now, we have been at the planning board and actually Councilman Knapp, former Councilman Knapp, sorry. He was very vocal on this. And so any new businesses, we require the ballots in front of the stores. I've talked to Mr., the owner of, I don't know his name, the owner of the shopping center where the accidents occurred. He told me he's working with his engineers and his planners to put ballots along the sidewalk because there were too many run-throughs. Talking to the attorney, I don't know if we have the ability to require existing businesses.
If I may, Mayor,
Yes, please.
and I don't know how long ago it was, maybe it was 2-3 years ago, Councilman Knapp had the same issue that Mr. Richardson had. We amended our site plan ordinance to require some sort of barrier between parking spaces, parking lots, and buildings. That only goes forward, it doesn't go backwards. The municipality has no ability to implement a policy to force someone to put in certain devices. We can do it now with businesses that come in for site plan approval, and the only thing we can do is, as the mayor indicated, is to encourage businesses to do so based upon the events that occur.
What is that? Okay, you want to talk about mass?
Oh, with the mass, we did circulate the policy to everybody so it was clear. Policy was implemented by Richard Kunz as being the administrator in charge, based upon CDC guidelines and suggested policies by OSHA. The policies that are implemented were for the protection of the employees. That's what's there. Most public buildings that I'm aware of and most municipalities that I represent personally, I won't say my firm because I can't say that for sure, do have a mask policy in place. There are exemptions for people. We could only encourage people to wear a mask, but it's for the protection of employees. If you go into the municipal building, you may see an employee sitting at their desk without a mask. That is their personal workspace. They can take the mask off. But just as in my building, you are permitted to take your mask off if you are traveling through the area, and that's typical for most businesses today. That's where we're at.
Okay. And as far as plastic bags, U.S. about the plastic bags. U.S. I'm sorry, I'm looking around. Plastic bags, we know that it is coming. In fact, if you go to Paramus,
Yep.
and you go to the stores, you do not get a bag.
Yep.
And even the great, the market in town, the food market, the great market, I forgot what the.
Farmers market.
Thank you, thank you. No more bags.
Just with the, you were talking about events for, to publicize it. I mean, if you reached out to Chopper at public events, he'll help you, and maybe public events could help do something along with that. So.
Thank you.
All right.
And who can follow up on 8 Hiawatha Boulevard? Thank you, Mr. Okay.
I just volunteered, Joe.
Thank you, our engineer. Now, can you give your summary for the Almond Brook residents?
Sure. And I certainly understand the concerns. I've seen, the condition of the embankments there as well. So I just want to let everybody know what we've done since the storm and what we're working on right now. Okay. So after the storm, our floodplain manager, Nick Agnoli, went out. He did an inspection, complete assessment of the entire length of Almond Brook, documented all of the damage, documented the amount of fill material that had washed down the stream, determined that was from the DOT area upstream. Subsequently worked with John McKemmick to put a cost estimate together for that project. One of the first things when I saw the report that I asked Nick was, all right, what, if anything, here is emergent? Meaning, is it an emergency where we need to invoke emergency purchasing procedures and go out and just have it done? He said, there's nothing of that nature here that cannot be done as a project, expeditiously, not waiting 2-3 years, but, in the normal course, okay? So that is how we're proceeding. We filed what's called an RPA, a request for public assistance with FEMA. And we're waiting for a claims person to be assigned with us to further that effort. We've contacted the DOT as well. Their initial response was, well, that's nice that that material's there, but it's not our jurisdiction to remove, which is, let's just say we disagree with that, and we'll be following up with our assembly people and with the commissioner's office as well. Lastly, we learned of another program through the USDA last week that would offer 75% reimbursement for the cost of the project, and we're pursuing that as well. Just want to point out that the FAQ guidance on that project explicitly states if you undertake any work before you have some sort of approval from them, none of it's eligible for reimbursement. Okay, so we are looking for outside funding here to help fund some of this work, because we're looking at about $500,000. So we are moving as quickly as we can, given the parameters of what we're dealing with. So I just want to kind of reiterate what the mayor was saying, that, we're not turning a blind eye here. We're going to make sure that this happens as quickly as we can. Okay,
and continue to call me, and as you've been doing, and emailing me, and we will keep going.
I'd like you to, when you get a chance, to read Lou Levy's response to
Tonight when I get home.
You too, please.
Mm-hmm.
And you do know that Lou Levy is the one who brought Nick Agnoli to our attention, and we would not have Nick Agnoli if it wasn't for Lou, so I know they work together.
Okay.
As far, the next one, let's do the appointment of municipal alliance. We have Jody Gaffredo, who volunteered for municipal alliance and access for all. So is there all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Jody, thank you. And we'll just do the license before we do the report on the marijuana ad hoc committee. License of the PTO Dogwood Hill School, RL1414. They're going to have a raffle at 10 a.m. on December 3rd, 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st at the Dogwood Hill School. And there'll be gift cards, tickets. It's an ongoing, I think it's a calendar raffle, so it's ongoing. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then with that, we would like to thank and ask to come up former Councilman Frank Pensma and Rec Chairman,
Aye.
now I know his name, but I don't know if he wants me to call you Rec Chairman. But they were integral parts of the committee. We had a very productive committee. We worked very hard, and as you said today, Could you repeat what you said? I mean, you described it excellent.
One of the most informative committees we've ever sat on.
With research, tours, visits, everybody had a part, so, thank you.
Mike Guadagnino.
Frank Pentama.
And I'd like to thank you for allowing us the chance to speak. As how we all got started basically was, as you know, the town and the state voted back in November, where 67% of the town voted in support of cannabis. Cannabis is a better term. Of legalization, and then the council had a very spirited debate about it. And where that brought us to was nothing. It still was very nebulous. So we got together. So I don't know if it was the mayor or the council. Whomever appointed it did a great job because we all came from different points of view. I mean, we were all over the map. You know, pro, anti, whatever you want to call it. We were all over the map. And our first couple meetings were very spirited, very, you know. But what happened over this period of time was 3.5 months. Is that we kind of worked out where our similarities are, where our differences are. In part of the process, we did a lot of research. We had the Oakland Police come out and discuss the different traffic situations that may or may not arise with this. We called people. We did so much work on this, and we really dissected and tore apart this whole thing to the actual minutiae. And in the process, in this committee, 40% of it was governing body. It was 2 councilmen and the mayor. So it really was, we put a lot.
2 councilmen.
Yeah, I said 2 councilmen and the mayor, yeah.
Mayor, can I just ask, would it be okay for the speakers to take their masks off during the presentation?
I'm really cool with that, actually, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
As long as you don't mind standing next to each other.
Not at all.
Okay.
So, again, it was, the committee had it was brought up, it was, where's my train of thought? 40% basically of the council. The council was part of it. Again, we tore this thing apart, we dissected it, and the ordinance, proposed ordinance we gave you is actually the 3rd one. And we've gone through this, we stopped, we went back. I mean, we put a lot of time into this. And as we continued to work, again, we were all over the place, we kind of worked and we found that point on the map where actually we all agreed. Nobody got everything they wanted. But in the end, I think we all kind of came along with something that we're happy with. And actually, to be honest with you, what makes this town so great is that we were able to go through this. We were able to have it, you know, the volunteers in this town, the spirited discussions we have are great. We're all neighbors, but in the end, we were able to work together. And we came together with something that we thought was really good and really, we all agreed with. And at the last meeting, we all asked everybody, do you agree? Do you agree? You know, and everybody at the end of it was really good. And the big thing too is, some people may have their own ideology on cannabis, no matter where you are on the spectrum of it. But in the end, people put that away, and they went with what they felt was best for Oakland on many levels, where I know Frank's going to talk a bit about the fabric of the town, that to continue to keep that fabric. And so I just wanted to, in front of you, or in your packet, is these the different 6 classes. And I don't know if they're at home, they could see that, people, just to follow along a bit. The first class is the cannabis cultivator. This is a grower, basically. And this is growing. And in a place like New Jersey, we can't grow outside. It has to be done hydroponically indoors. We'll speak a little bit to that. Second one is a cannabis manufacturer. This is someone who processes cannabis and items in New Jersey. It's basically a processing center, not growing it. Cannabis, next class was cannabis wholesaler, where they're actually selling it to the stores. Again, not to people, but to stores. Next part is a cannabis retailer. Now this is actually the stores where people walk in and purchase. In our committee, and I know Frank did a lot of work in this, and I did a lot of work in this too, we spoke with a lot of people. And the number one thing that people really were against was having stores. So this is not part of the, we extracted this out. We are not asking, or this ordinance does not say for a cannabis realtor. You're not going to have pot stores up and down 202. You're not going to have any in this town, based on this, unless the council decides to change and add it. And the last thing is a cannabis delivery system, where basically what it is, if someone can call or use an app or something, and they contact a distributor, it would be in a blank envelope type of place, and they would deliver it to the home, to the individual that they want to purchase it. Now, there were some issues with this, and we, again, part of this dissecting, we went through some of the issues. And the big thing was the volume of a wholesaler. Now, the wholesaler, again, they send it out to the, well, let's just start off, let's go right where we left off with the traffic with the delivery service. Now, one of the things we did is I spoke to a lot of different cannabis companies in Massachusetts, Colorado, and California. We did a lot of research that way. And the thing with the traffic, they do a lot of, basically, they say it's same-day service. You can't purchase it and order it for 3 days from now. You got to purchase it and order it that day. So it comes in sometime during the day. And the amount of traffic they described, it was equivalent to having an Uber Eats or pizza delivery service. It wasn't like the roads are being filled. And a lot of stuff, again, is later in the day. It's not during the access during the bulk of the day. We recommended in its ordinance that these would be unmarked cars. So you will not, so if someone's driving one of these cars and delivering it, you will not know, it's not going to say, you know, Eric's Pot Service. It's basically going to be just a blank car. Again, with the research, with the studies, there was one really big research study done in Sacramento, California, to check on the traffic, and the traffic was negligible. It was absolutely negligible. So that was a big thing we were concerned about, the traffic. We did a lot of research on that, as well as we spoke with the chief, and it really traffic was not an issue with this. Next, with the volume of the wholesaler. Again, we're concerned about the traffic on the roads. They basically say it's delivered usually in like a 15-foot box truck, like a U-Haul type of truck. And an average is once per week, and the busiest companies dealt with 5 deliveries per week. So it's not like it's FedEx. So one of our concerns was that, you know, in the morning all the FedEx trucks were going to come out. We're talking about 5 deliveries, and the biggest wholesaler would deliver a week. Another concern was the water in the growers. How much water are they going to use? And the largest place I spoke with was a 50,000 square foot growing facility. And again, it's hydroponically, it's growing inside. Again, we can't grow anything outside. And they use 8,800 gallons a day, which again is, I guess, it's a lot. It's a lot for any business. So we put into this ordinance that we're requesting that they have to supply their own water. So we don't touch our water, we don't touch our aquifers. We're still preserving our water supply. And you see a lot. You might see some water trucks. They deliver to swimming pool places. They deliver to but these people, if they want to come in, if they want to grow in one of these facilities, they would have to supply their own water. Another big concern was the smell. And evidently, during the growing period, in a growing facility, during a certain period, during a certain couple of weeks, there's a strong, pungent smell. So we spoke to a lot of different facilities, and what we've done, and Frank will talk about, is that we are choosing locations that are not near homes, not on Borough Drive. And not only that, we've recommended we're hoping that in the ordinance that we get this right, they have to have a carbon filtration system. And a carbon filtration system will stop that smell from getting outside. And again, if it only blocks 99%, if 1% gets out, we're not putting these things near homes. These things are going to be in the Oakland Mountains. So that's how I feel about. That's what I say about that. You want to add now, Frank?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I'd echo what Councilman Pignatelli said earlier. I think we all said, as a committee, Mayor included, that this is probably one of the best things we've ever done. And even in my 6 years I spent on the council, I would chalk this one up as one of
But
the
you were
best
great,
committees.
and we want to thank you. He took notes. You took notes all the time, and
worries.
kept us straight and narrow, right?
It's my curse. I can't help it. Apologies for my dress. I double duty tonight because of our swearing in.
Right.
As Mike talked about, some of the things we're recommending in here in the proposed ordinance, I wanted to talk about the process for the people at home to understand what the governing body goes through, because this just isn't wham bam, we're done tonight, we move on. The governing body is going to have to entertain 3 different ordinances actually for this to work for Oakland. The first ordinance, which came from our committee, is the proposal on the types of businesses, cannabis businesses, that we feel are allowable in Oakland, would fit the fabric of the town and not, taint the structure, which was very important to actually every single member of the committee. The second ordinance would be a revenue ordinance to talk about the amount that we're going to charge, and I'll mention what those rates are in a minute, the amounts that the borough would be allowed to charge, and then we have an inclusion we'd like to recommend that I think Councilman Van Eck will probably steer about the use of that revenue and why we want to use it in a certain way. And then the third ordinance would be, of course, Oakland adopting its own license ordinance. So the predicate for you being able to operate in Oakland is twofold. You first must obtain a state license, and there's all the requirements around that. The second is that you then have to have that state license before you can apply for a license in Oakland to operate in Oakland. And one of the conditions we are recommending is that there's an employment clause within the licensing. That employment clause states that we would like each business to have at least 10% of their workforce come from within the Oakland community. Now, we're also cognizant that that may be a stretch. Sometimes it's a skill set issue. Sometimes, companies advertise for jobs and people don't apply. So if they face those hurdles, they'd be able to apply to the governing body for a waiver as long as they can show proof that they've taken earnest steps to, make those hires, did the proper advertising, did whatever they need to do to secure that 10%. Maybe they can only hire 6% and you guys give them a waiver for the rest, but that's our recommendation. Again, as Mike pointed out, of the 6 forms of cannabis businesses, retail, we are not recommending. It's not on the table. We don't feel that fits the fabric of Oakland. And for any of the other businesses, whether delivery, wholesale, or cultivator, the buildings, which will be, I think, will be memorialized in your license ordinance, our recommendation is the buildings are nondescript. No signage. Again, Eric, sorry to pick on you. No Eric's pot growing service, none of that stuff. There's no green leaf on the building. There's nothing that, other than it might say, MGF Manufacturing or whatever the company's name might be. This ordinance talks to specific security that they would have to have in place. Parking areas would have to be gated and such. It's a very controlled process. The state sets a lot of those regulations, by the way, and we're following suit on that. So tonight's ordinance. Can you put the zone map up? I thank Rich Coons for getting us this zoning map, because this was much better than the one we used in committee. That was it had about 20 colors on it, but
Small.
Yeah. So there's 2 colors. There's dark green areas and light green areas. So let's talk about the light green areas. The light green areas, which are to the left of the map, which represent both sides, the north and southbound sides of Route 287. So as Mike said earlier, a lot of this is in the mountainous areas. If folks drive by, the paper company and Dewey Electronics that are on the southbound side of 287, that's the area we're talking about. Plus the industrialized side of the northbound side, which is on this side of 287, depending on how you look at it. So that light green area is what we're terming the I-1, I-2, and I-4 zones. Those would cover the 5 specific businesses that we feel, should be considered under the ordinance, which are cultivators, manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors, and delivery. Okay, again, predicate is that they first obtain a state license, then get Oakland's license. The dark green areas, which are already noted industrial zones in Oakland, that's the I3 and IP zones. Not any new zonage here. The only businesses that we are designating to operate in those areas would be wholesalers and distributors. Essentially, it's factory delivery. It's almost like, I hate to say it, but Amazon warehouse. Mike already spoke about the traffic and how it should be minimal traffic that goes through there. The borough also has the option in any ordinance you draft licensing to limit the hours of service with any one of the facilities. So I'm assuming that'll go in accordance with what we currently do now with our retail establishments. Revenues. So the revenue ordinance, which we as a committee are not proposing to you tonight, but you guys would work on your own committee. So the state allows a municipality to tack on an additional 2% on top of the gross receipts of any of the cannabis businesses that would operate within your municipality. There is an exception to that where wholesalers are only charged 1%. All the rest of the other 4 that are recommended in the proposal would be 2%. We're certainly, you can charge anything up to. We in committee decided we would recommend the full 1% and or 2% for any of those businesses. The other thing, and kind of very important thing that we want to recommend to you is, oh, by the way, the current ordinance you have takes into account the borough setting a fair and equitable escrow fee for people that come in and want to apply for a license. Steve Lyden, the borough planner, very diligently worked that into the ordinance, and those are suggested rates. You guys can obviously always change them, increase them if you see fit, but those are to take into effect what normal escrow fees take into effect. Engineering, reviewing reports, potentially the police going out and doing a site review, site plan review, anything that goes before the planning or zoning boards, that kind of stuff. The most important thing in the revenue ordinance, we feel, is we want to take the revenues, any revenues generated from cannabis operations in Oakland, and dedicate them against the borough's debt service. Now, for residents at home who may not understand what that is, think of debt service as your mortgage payment on your home. So the borough right now has on average about $2.1 million a year that we spend in debt service, covering repayment of bond principal and interest. We want to recommend to you guys that you consider using that as a dedicated source for that. There's some important reasons for that. First, it'll help, obviously, fund that annual $2.1 million debt service line that I spoke about. It also allows the governing body to have another mechanism to do more forward-thinking capital planning on the infrastructure. So we all know, because you hear it in the news every day, but if you just drive around town, there's infrastructure needs we have. Just like our homes, there's times we have to replace windows in borough buildings, we have to replace roofs, we have to replace pipes that break in a building, roads, you name it. So this would be a way and a mechanism potentially to help the borough council kind of make easier decisions on some of those infrastructure needs. This also demonstrates to potential future Oakland bond purchasers that we're serious about our financial future and our finances in Oakland, and that we have a dedicated stream of money to pay them back, which is always a critical thing, right? How do I get my investment back? So, that will make our bonds more attractive than, say, another town that just is funding that through the tax levy.
And a lower rate.
I'm getting there, yep. And lastly, this will go to further support the borough's AAA bond rating that we have, that we worked very hard to get several years ago. And having that rating gives us access to lower interest rate, as Councilman Pignatelli spoke about, which helps us out. And the one thing I'd point out is less than 3% of New Jersey's 565 municipalities have a AAA rating, and even less maintain that for more than 2 or 3 years consistently. So kudos to Oakland and what we're doing there. That's pretty much it from our side of the presentation. I think you guys, you all have the map that Rich is showing on the screen, and you have the ordinance. And
do any of the council people have questions? I mean, they did a great job of presentation. I mean, we spent so much time.
Well, I'd just like to comment.
You could comment.
All
You're on the
right.
committee. You could comment.
Yeah. First, I want to thank the mayor for allowing us to put together an ad hoc committee. The mayor said to Councilman Van Neck and myself, one of us was for and one of us was against. We won't say who was what. And we brought members of the community to the committee that we thought would be valuable and would have a great deal of impact. And thankfully, we did. There was some people who questioned my motive for voting to ban the cannabis legislation in the very beginning. And like I said to Frank and to the mayor and to the entire committee, this is one of the most important decisions that I will have to make in the 15 years that I've been on the Borough Council. This is going to have long-range effect for our community. By putting this committee together, as Mr. Guadagnino said, we did research, we did field trips. The mayor did a field trip. Councilman Van Neck and I did a field trip. We looked at ordinances from other towns, from other states. We really did a lot of work, and we put in 5 months of meetings. So, I didn't want to put the cart before the horse. I wanted to take our time to develop the ordinance that we felt was best for Oakland. I think everybody brought something to the table. I think eventually we respected one another's opinion as being an opinion and not have any ulterior motives behind it. I really enjoyed meeting with every person on the committee. They really brought a lot, yes.
Can I add one other thing, Mayor? So just two things. So Pat brought up something that I think is important to clarify, because this question I got a lot from people in town, and Mike, I suspect you got it as well. So yes, the council at one point, Councilman Kamala, brought forward a suspension, a tabling, if you will, a voting no on the ordinance. That was a very important protection move that we needed to make, because, as you all are hearing here, we spent several months crafting through this ordinance. So the way it's structured to work now, if municipalities did not say no by August 21st of this year, then all 6 of those cannabis business lines that we just went through automatically apply to the town that doesn't opt out. Now, when you opt out, you can always opt in and then pick 1, 2, all 6 of whatever combination that you want after you've opted out first. So I know you guys all had a lot of angst amongst yourself, and I get that spirit, and that's what you should have, but honestly, that was a really good protectionary move, and this is where I think if you look at this whole thing, everyone really contributed in this whole thing, whether you're on the committee or not. I mean, when the mayor called me and said, I hear you put your name in for the committee, I just want to make sure, it's correct. I said, yes, I did. And I said to her specifically, I said, Linda, I'm going to tip my hand. I'm a total no on all this stuff, right? You know that. She goes, I know.
I said I wanted you.
That's exactly what you said. She goes, I know, but that's why I want you on the committee. And as Mike said, we came together, and my firm no on everything became a, hey, if we can keep the character of Oakland the way it is, and find a way in tough economic environments to potentially generate some money. We're not saying this is penicillin, folks. This isn't going to make, everyone's property taxes go down 50%. That's not the case.
Dream.
But, even a $10 million cannabis business would contribute $200,000 to the borough, and that $200,000 is about $40 on the average house, give or take. That's important.
Well, one thing I think, though, that you did leave off, though, is if you didn't opt out, and all 6 were allowed, you couldn't change it for 5 years.
And not only can you not change for 5 years, you never change it. So the only thing that changes after 5 years is you can tweak new businesses coming in. So hypothetically, if this council didn't do that and 6 retail stores moved in, guess what? They're here forever. Now, you could limit it after 5 years to no more retail, but those 6 that came in, you're stuck.
We were also very lucky to have Steve Lyden, our planner, involved, because he gave us great insight into the different zones. We talked about where the housing was, we talked about where industry was, and we all came together.
An example of that, as Frank just says, I was a total yes.
I know.
So I may feel differently about what he just said, but in the end, we all came together and we all just, we found the spot on the map that worked.
And it took a lot of time, 5 months.
It took a lot of time, not only that, a lot of homework.
And
we came back, a lot of homework, yeah.
So I really want the residents to know that.
I think we're going to Washington next to do some other things, but let's get this done first. Right?
Oh, good.
I want the residents to know that we really kept, as Mr. Benton said, the character and the character of the town intact.
And Councilman Bennett on the committee.
Ditto to everything you both said. Thanks to Mike and Frank. It's great working with both of you. I've worked with you in other capacities with rec, and this was totally different, and it was a lot of fun. I think what we did is propose something that really makes sense for that charisma of our community, the character, the essence of Wamako is preserved here. And we're a unique town geographically with the highway where we had zones where this could happen. Because there was a chance you pull up the map and we wanted to do this, there was no place to put it. And there are towns where there wouldn't be a place to put it. We happen to have this real estate in our community, which it really makes it possible for us to do something that makes this much sense. And we really did compromise. Everybody was all over, and we came together at this point where we all agreed. And I didn't know if that would happen after our first 3 meetings. I didn't see it. I
Yeah,
didn't see-
recently it came together.
In,
just
in the
recently.
last meeting, Pat and I had a virtual hug.
But the other good thing
But-
was, we took into account the employment, have
Yes.
open residence.
That is going to be in the revenue and the licensing
Right.
ordinance, so we'll look, again, one of the reasons I was so passionate about doing this in the start is being on the finance committee with
2%.
Councilman Talamini, is the 2% and the debt service, which Frank explained perfectly on how that municipal budgeting and financing works, and how this is incredibly responsible for us to do. If a business did come in, right, we don't know if anyone will move to Oakland, but this would provide an opportunity for that to happen, and for 200, to your example of $200,000 a year, would make a big difference in not paying $1.2 million for $1.5 million, $1.2 million worth of road, and we'd spend $1.5 million on it every year.
After all this work, I hope somebody comes.
So it's
So that's
so-
really
So
important.
imagine that number, excuse
It's
me,
2% of the gross,
of the gross.
not the net.
Right. And imagine that number on top of, hypothetically, 1 year or 2 years, what you're spending on roads now.
Yeah.
Where you have to catch up or something. That's the beauty of this. It gives you a vehicle now that you guys don't have right now. You don't have it. So this gives you some flexibility on planning.
Because
for that
the
infrastructure.
long-term goal of our finance committee over the course of the next few years we've been working through is to get to pay as you go. And this, if a business was to come in, would get us there and sustain us to a point like that, which would be a remarkable thing if you live here and pay taxes here in this town.
And again, remember, all these companies will be vanilla envelopes. No one will know what's going on inside.
Yep.
So it's
Well, we went to, that's when you went to the medical
Medical.
marijuana dispensary. You don't even know what it is. They're not allowed to
You drive right by the
advertise. It's
building.
all the glass is
Coded?
coated. You can't look in. There are no signage. It's beautiful. And I described it when I came back. What did I say? When I walked in, I felt like I was, when you go to an airport and you're coming back from the Caribbean, how they make you walk through the duty-free shops, and there's a lot of security and a lot of lights and glass shelving, and that's exactly what it looked like. Security, lights, cameras. You don't even know what's going on in there.
And in that case, that's not even going to be in Oakland.
Right.
Right, so those dispensaries are not going to exist in Oakland. This is really about warehousing and delivery first, cultivating second. There are only 37 cultivation licenses being issued, and they're divvied up between the north, central, and south of New Jersey. So it makes it even less of a pool, as Grant said. Hopefully, somebody might come and apply, but you don't know.
We don't know if there's any left.
You know
right?
what?
and even as delivery, as it's allowed in the state, if Oakland doesn't allow it, Pompano Lakes allows it, Mawa, Suffolk, whoever. People can order. It's coming through town anyhow.
And drive
They're allowed
It
to.
might as well
right.
be, yeah.
Right,
We
you
get the
can't-
tax and we just,
You can't limit delivery in the
Right.
borough, right? So this isn't even just about delivering within the borough, it's delivering to other towns as well. So, it's like, think of it, I hate to say Amazon warehouse, because they'll probably get involved at some point and put everybody out
I
of
am
business.
sure. Yes.
Mayor, I just want to say, Councilman DePenza and also Commissioner Quad, I'm so glad that, you guys really took the last 4, 5, 6 months to really unpack this. I mean, there was a lot of information to take in. I mean, I know I was feeding you information. I mean, it was a really obtuse project that you're working on. And the fact that you're able to distill this down into a document like this, that now we as a council got good recommendations from you to really take a real close look at this and figure out how we can move forward and figure out what's appropriate for Oakland. So I just want to commend also Councilman Pignatelli and also Councilman Beck and everybody on the committee.
Yeah, I mean, Rich Coons,
Rich.
administrator,
Sure.
participated.
And Matt Goodrich
And
from
Matt
the
Goodrich,
First Aid
yep,
Squad.
from the
He was
First Aid
very
Squad
helpful.
contributed, right, and Steve Lyden as well.
Yeah, yes.
Everybody really pulled their
There's a
weight.
lot of work for a lot of people, and everybody carried their weight. Yeah.
And we all came to that point where we said, yes. No one was uncomfortable with a word.
I don't know how it happened,
There was
but it
one
happened.
word in this ordinance or that
That,
came
right,
from
who
that
went around
anybody had a
saying,
problem with.
do you agree? Was that
That was
you?
me.
That was my-
you.
You're fine with this.
Yeah.
Does anybody else on the council have anything to add?
Well, I just
Question?
wanted to say, you guys put in a whole lot of time. I know it. I've been following it, and I gotta tell you something. My feeling on it was, as Mike had it, you and I agreed a long time ago, but what you came out with is the best possible outcome for every resident of Oakland. Because we're not changing Oakland and making us the cannabis capital. We're doing it to get the revenue, to offset our taxes, to do projects in town, to do what we thought was the best, take the best opportunity that this business can add. Imagine the people who didn't believe the prohibition back in the 30s when that opened up. And people said, no, we're going to get closed down real quick. But the people who took the advantage are the people who came out, and today, their families are very rich. So hopefully that happens to our town, without impacting it, and hopefully it does, we keep it cornered where it should be, and keep it in the right locations where it should be, and we don't have the retail. And I was always the one that said, I don't want people coming here to buy. We want to take advantage of the revenue, the stream that's going to be created, because there is going to be a revenue stream, and we want to be part of that.
And we'll we have the properties.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can take advantage of the finance end of it as these businesses
Right.
operate. Yeah.
Anybody else want to say something?
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, just thank you for all the work you've done. I have just a couple questions. So, how many licenses are we thinking about?
You know, Russ, it's somewhat impossible to say because, you know, it's possible no cultivator will come to Oakland because of the protections that were crafted about buying your own water. We're not allowing you to discharge that in our aquifer because when you're doing hydroponic growing inside, you're using a lot of chemicals to replicate what happens in nature with light and pollination and all that. And we don't want that going back into the water, which is why Mike had the great idea of saying, they got to buy their own water and treat it and recycle and or get rid of it, number one, and the air handlers. The second part is what I'm reading right now, and I'm not an expert on this. It seems like licenses will most likely go to the economic areas of the state that the whole cannabis part of this is intended to revitalize in a sense, and we're not one of those economically depressed areas. Doesn't mean we won't get a license, but I think they're going to go in those spots first. Camden's, Newark's, that kind of stuff. Pasake's already talking about getting one large growth facility cultivator license and these what they call micro facilities. But we have in the ordinance a limit of no more than 10 of any of them. That's a number that you guys can change. You can lower, you can do whatever.
Right, that's 10 of all types combined.
10 of all types combined, correct. So, you know, you could say we don't want more than 5. I don't know.
I'll tell you
And one other thing, it's subject to actually having the space available too, right? So, you know, there might not be an area for a cultivator big enough that is economical for them, but for distribution and warehousing, and that's all prepackaged, no smell, no nothing, it's just moving boxes. That's, you know, that's different.
I'll tell you how secretive it is. You know, we talked about the medical, like you don't even know it's there. Remember when I called the manager and the owner of the facility up in Sussex County, up 23. I said, we'd like to take, we don't allow tours. I said, well, we're thinking of adopting an ordinance and we're very interested. Sorry, we can't let you in for security reasons. I said, well, can we look at anything? No. I said, can we stand outside? She said, well, there's a gate, you won't be able to get in. So we never even they wouldn't let us near there.
Yeah.
They said, you won't even know we're here.
So-
You wouldn't find us.
But, so now the license, is it similar to a liquor license? Would it?
The license is issued by this, let me just make sure the license is issued by the state. They have their whole licensing procedure. You will have your own licensing procedure, which typically is more for security and other purposes of what you're looking for. But the main license has to come from the state. That's the only way that they will be able to operate. You can certainly address the two issues that were raised during the presentation. One was security, one was local employment that you can have. It's constantly evolving because although you had to act by August 21st, the regulations didn't come out to August as to what the commission was considering for municipalities. And they're going to have limitations on licenses now. Whether that expands further, it's to be determined. but the process is pretty much in place, at least at the state level, because they've done this with medical for the past several years.
So, but now, like a liquor license is attached to the address, the building?
There will be a specific building, but let's, again, I did not read the 190 pages of
We
regulations.
have it available for you to read.
But my understanding is that if you have a license to operate in a community and you're going to another building, they will probably just allow you to transfer that license, just as if it was a liquor license. One of the key issues here is that the ultimate operator of any type of facility will probably own that facility because of issues with banking and federal law.
Yep.
So if you're a landlord, you have serious issues if you're going to rent to this type of business based upon the prohibition on the federal level and restrictions on bank operations.
And so now, so as far as the state goes, I mean, like if we were to move forward in this, I mean, the state is still evolving in all of this. Are we premature in this? Are we?
You're not premature. You're pretty much at the right level. When we were speaking about this 6 months ago, it was all no, because you had no guidance. How can we decide what to do in this limited window? Statute was approved, we have no guidance from the state, and they say make a decision by August 21. What you're going through is no different than the other communities that I could point to, like Fort Lee. Fort Lee said medical only, but now they're saying, let's look at retail too. If I look at Fort Lee, they're looking at it, they're the gateway. They were like right in New
Right by
York,
the bridge.
but they said no in the beginning because they wanted to do exactly what you just did. Study appropriate locations for for the non-medical use. And most communities are against 100% what I'll call the smoke shop, that on-premise consumption, and to an extent retail, depending on the character of the town. If they do retail, it could say, okay, maybe, if you had a place on on 287, yeah, you want to be on 287 like a fireworks store, go ahead. But, that's what you're looking at, is that you have your regulations, you have your licensing mechanisms in place at the state, and you can piggyback on that. You can maybe get, some users, you might not get any, it really depends. In terms of distribution and the like, you're right by 287. So, I mean, those are considerations. If you look at what's happening in Mawa, everybody wants a warehouse now in Mawa because of its location.
So now, at one of the council meetings, someone had mentioned that there was a place on 23 already operating.
Right. That's the
selling
one
stuff.
up.
So now, we don't want that. So what happens if somebody starts operating and?
Oh, you're talking about the gas station?
Yeah, what they're doing at the gas station is that they're selling you things and you get a bag of pop for free, something like along those lines. Which I think the state's on.
However it's being done.
It's illegal.
Right now it's illegal, so.
And they're paying
So
fines.
what do we do? So we have our.
We have the police chief.
You call the sheriff.
That's already illegal.
It's a police issue? Is it a zoning issue?
It's a police issue.
It's a police issue.
You're now violating the law by selling a product you can't sell. It's, for example, I can't go into, I don't want to use Krauser's as an example because I doubt they sell liquor, but,
No.
if they start selling liquor, they're violating the law.
Right. Okay. Just thank you again. That was it.
Kevin?
I'd also like to just say thank you to everyone that worked so hard on this, and this presentation was great. You guys really touched on, just tonight in this short presentation, all the main concerns that I had was the smell and then protecting the water sources. Also, I'm just, really excited. A couple months ago, we were, really like all up in arms about this. It was like really like, butting heads. But here, I loved how you guys had opposing, either for or against it, and then came together. So that's what I'm really excited about, all of us working on this, moving this forward in a nice, amicable way, getting it done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Good job.
Thanks.
Thanks.
So,
So we'd like to move this forward.
I mean, I guess I would suggest that you put it on a work session for a discussion for the next steps.
Next meeting.
work session.
Yeah.
Should we also put the licensing and revenue ordinances along with it and have all three up for discussion
I
at the
think
same
you
time?
want to, I think you want to review all of them.
Yes.
Can we do that for next meeting?
Why not? Put it on for work session.
Rich, we okay with that? We got.
Yeah, I mean, we may just have kind of a bullet point list for the elements that will go into those ordinances. I don't know that we'll have something formally drafted in 2 weeks, but we will work towards it.
Okay.
And we'll have it on for discussion. with all
Well,
of
I'm
us.
happy to have a meeting with Steve or anybody else involved in that process and Pat.
Well, if I may,
I think at this point, in terms of the drafting, it kind of goes over to Brian's shop
Right.
regarding licensing requirements and the revenue portion.
I think
We just want to make sure we put in there, because from the very start, the 2% and that, and
It'll
make
have to
sure
go
it
to
pays
the
that.
10%.
Right.
And where the 2%'s going.
Where the
Right.
2%'s
That
going,
it's gonna
and then the
be-
10%
right. It's designated
employment
towards-
requirement as
Yes.
well.
should we have the finance committee maybe put together what the fees should be and the licensing, et cetera?
It should be consistent with what we do for other things, I feel.
2% of the gross.
We'll come up with a draft. One thing that you need to keep in mind in terms of the timing of all this is that, the licensing and taxation ordinances will not need planning board review. The zoning ordinance will. Okay, so that's going to add a month to the adoption process. So we have a little bit more time on the licensing and the taxation piece. If you want to kind of line it all up to adopt at the same time. The most important one to make a decision on introducing in terms of the time frame is the zoning ordinance part of it.
Didn't we add a new zone?
We were
I-4?
changing
Zone.
the.
I-4?
I-4.
We created the I-4 zone.
Right, and clarified others.
Yep.
Right, so the I-4 really becomes what was shown on the map as CO and IP because of a discrepancy with the language in the code itself. All right, so, but we'll have it on for workshop next week.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't remember, Councilman Miali asked me, did we skip over the minutes?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We did, because they were here to present, and we also had the fire. Because at the last meeting, we made them stand here for a while, and I promised them I'd get them out. So now we're back to the approval of the minutes. We have September 22nd, 2021.
So moved.
Any discussion? If no discussion, roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
We have the minutes from the executive session of September 22nd, 2021. If there's going to be any discussion, it must be done during executive.
So moved.
Second.
Will there be any discussion? If not, roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're up to resolutions. I'll read them. If you want any pulled out, you'll let me know.
Did you do the raffle license?
Yeah. I did that before the ad hoc, that's purposely. Remember I said we moved everything around? Resolution 21-295, Chapter 159, the Great Oak Park Band Shell. And Oakland was awarded from Bergen County Trust Fund $40,200 for the band shell for Great Oak Park, and wishes to amend the 2021 budget to include this amount as revenue. 21-296 is the certification of the 2020 audit, which everyone has received. 21-297 is the approval of the 2020 annual audit corrective action plan that you have all received and reviewed. 21-298 is the Chapter 159 Senior Center upgrades. The director has approved the insertion of an item for an equal amount. We've been awarded a grant from the Bergen County Community Development in the amount of $42,191 for the Borough of Oakland Senior Center, and wishes to amend the 2021 budget to include this amount as revenue. 21,299 is to authorize a salary increase for our CFO, and based on market conditions and job performance, and the best interest of the borough to give the CFO a salary increase. And effective October 14th, 2021, David Young, our CFO, will receive a salary of $132,750. 21,300 is to authorize the purchase of 2022 Ford Utility Interceptor police vehicle, the Winter Ford of Cherry Hill, and Haddonfield, Berlin Road, and Cherry Hill. Contract 20 Fleet 01189 for vehicles per specifications. The cost of each vehicle is $32,991. So for the two, it would be $65,982. 21,301 is the Adopt Flood Responses and Procedures Annex for the Borough of Oakland Emergency Operations Plan. And this is all as required for the emergency operations plan related to flood response procedures. 21,302 is a resolution authorizing the issuance of requests for qualifications for professional services to the Borough of Oakland for legal, financial, engineering, and risk management services pursuant to our fair and open process. And there's a listing of all the professionals that have to apply and send in, are you listening, an RFQ. And 21,303 is authorize an agreement to conduct electronic tax sale. And the statute authorizes electronic tax sales pursuant to rules and regulations promulgated by the Director of Division of Government Services. And Oakland wishes to enter into a contract with the vendor to conduct the 2021 online tax sale at a rate of $15 per listed property, not to exceed $9,000. Are there any you wish to pull out?
Yes, Mayor, 21,295, please.
295, that is the first one, the band shell. Any others? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
Resolution 21,295 is the Great Oak Park band shell. This resolution is simply to include the money from the grant from Bergen County Trust Fund, $40,200, and put it into the 2021 budget.
So that was my question. It's coming from the county and we're putting it into our budget
It's because we have to.
Correct.
as a 159. Okay,
Right,
thank
you
you.
have to make that adjustment.
Yep, that's
Correct.
it. That's all.
Okay.
That's all my question was.
So you want to make the motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve 21-295.
Second.
Chapter 159. Great Oak Park, band shell.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, sorry. Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
These are all introductions of new ordinances. 21 Code, 857, Recreation Facilities and Recreation Areas, Section 9-2, Municipal Tennis Court and Athletic Field, subsection 9-2.2, Tennis Court Regulations of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Oakland.
Just, I can mention that pickleball program is new. It's, our rec commissioner's done a great job getting that in here. There was just a tournament the other weekend. I didn't have a chance to stop by because I was traveling, but I saw pictures and got feedback. So exciting that I recommended it to our newsletter committee, who's writing up a newsletter article with Mike and others about what a wonderful thing. So that's what it does is permit the use of pickleball, which is the largest growing sport in America, we hear.
And many older adults.
I
I want to thank.
Anybody have any questions for us?
I want to thank Recreation for getting the tennis players and the pickleball players together.
4 minutes after I
Coming to
walked
an
in the room.
agreement. Thank you.
4 minutes.
That's what I was going to ask. I remember we had received
Oh, no, they met.
an email about the safety of it. There was something about the
And I spoke to the biggest protester, I think, from tennis, and everybody's happy
I
right
can,
now. Right now,
Councilman
right?
Talamini, what the very quick compromise was, is that the 6th tennis court, which is really never used, would become 2 dedicated permanent pickleball courts. The pickleball group is very happy to have 2 dedicated, and now there'll be 5 tennis courts and 2 permanent pickleball courts here in Oakland.
It might become 4, actually.
Maybe 4.
So far, everybody's happy.
2 for sure.
Everybody's happy.
It's easier than the candidates committee.
4 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Diallo.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
Final hearing.
October 27th.
And that's when the public can review these these introduction of these ordinances, and then you can speak at the final hearing. We'd love to hear your feedback. 21 Code 858 is to amend the code for outdoor dining.
Now, the reason, I've been bringing this up every meeting, I just think it's really important we make this permanent. We made our temporary resolution extension 2 meetings ago, I believe, and this is just something that would make more permanent, something we've been working on for many months since the beginning of the pandemic to make this permanent, and we had to make a number of adjustments to our code in order to do so, and that's what this does here.
And it certainly has helped our restaurants, so thank
To
you.
help out our restaurant. Anybody, any questions on this?
Motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Diallo.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
Which goes with 21 Code 859 to amend the code parking for restaurants.
Before that, Mayor, we need a date for final adoption.
Oh,
And
is
and
it
goes-
October 27th?
No, it goes to the planning board. It should be out 2 in a few seconds.
Oh, this has to go back to the planning board, the dining, not the parking.
Both of them do.
Both?
The final adoption will be on November 23rd.
Okay. And so that goes also for 21 Code 859, having to do with parking requirements. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Diallo.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
And this too will be on November 23rd.
November 23rd.
And we have, is it too soon? Because we have a planning board meeting tomorrow night. But that would be too soon.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
think
too
so.
quick for the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have a big agenda tomorrow night. 21 Code 860, amend code for the clothing bins. This is
No.
for,
So this is something I've been bringing up many meetings now. We've had this conversation over the course of the last few months. That something many years back, the council decided to remove clothing bins on private property. What this would do is just allow it for private property owned by nonprofit entities. And that's a compromise that we came to. So that would be the Knights of Columbus is really how it came to my attention. And then Elks and
should you not vote on it?
the Legion would be able to have clothing bins, which
You don't
our
vote
borough
on it,
currently
you don't
does.
money.
And that there would be an enforcement if it was not properly maintained, which our borough's clothing bins has not been properly maintained.
So why is it called recycling bins?
Because that's what they're
Clothing
called.
They're called.
is
That's-
recycled.
Yeah, because that's what they're called in the
Yeah.
statute.
And I just want to stress this, I'm not sure if I mentioned it last meeting. All the halls in our community, our nonprofit halls, rely on rentals. And that was severely impacted throughout this pandemic with these draconian restrictions that were placed by the state on all these nonprofits who rely on rentals. Clothing bins, you do receive revenue. Our borough receives revenue from the clothing bin on borough property. To restrict that from nonprofits, I just didn't feel it was right, and this is an important service to the community. I know I've dropped them off already, my clothing at the Knights of Columbus parking lot, because when I went to the one at Borough, it was overflowing. The one at the Knights wasn't, and I dropped off my clothes there.
So it's called recycling bins.
These are recycling
Yes.
bins, yes.
And the most important thing is maintenance, 4-12-5.
Correct.
The receptacle shall be maintained in clean, sanitary condition, painted and in good working order. So I hope that.
We
the
issue ourselves a
nonprofits-
violation though
Right.
if we don't.
Well, there's one more thing. The ordinance says that the permittee has to empty the bins 3 times a week.
Oh.
So I hope that's made perfectly clear to the permittee when they get their permit, that they would be in violation if they didn't empty it 3 times a week. That's quite a bit. I mean, that's every other day. I mean, and then where do they put the stuff?
Rich, what were you?
So the way it works is it's a service, and if they're overflowing, you see that they're full, you call them and I know this, they come right down and they empty them right out.
Well, then it's their responsibility.
Their responsibility.
The permittee when they get the permit, I think that point has to be driven home emphatically, that they have to empty it every other day, or call their
Otherwise-
company to come and empty it every other day.
Right, because otherwise it's going to be on the floor.
Sure,
on the
absolutely,
ground.
yeah.
I just asked Rich how often we empty ours. and I didn't-
Yeah, it really depends. I can tell you right now, it's not 3 times a week.
And it's disgusting.
Once a week, once every other week. It's been clean since we last cleaned it up. I think that was the sort of thing that, and this I think was the point that the council had when they banned it, that it's the sort of thing that feeds on itself, right? People see some stuff left out there, they feel free to leave some stuff out there, and you have this problem that kind of balloons. Brian, is that 3 times a week? Is that per statute?
It's not per statute,
It's not
it's
per
what
statute.
we've established because the reason you put this on the municipal property was because on other properties, the condition was, for lack of a better word, deplorable. And based upon the volume of what was seen, that it was determined to be 3 times a week. I think you're going to look at it and say, it's, if they do it twice a week and it's clean, it doesn't matter.
As long as it's kept clean.
True.
Correct.
True.
Okay.
Right.
So should we adjust the agenda to say clothing bins / recycling bins, since that's what the name
Well, mine says
on the
clothing bins.
ordinance will
Oh.
be?
Well, the ordinance is recycling, you could just say the agenda, recycling bins, clothing bins.
Yeah, I think you should add that to the agenda when we do the final hearing. So, when is the final hearing? Oh, did we vote?
I don't think we voted
Oh.
yet.
Oh, did you make the motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second? No.
I vote.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes?
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
And final hearing?
October 27th.
21 Code 861.
Thank you, Mayor. I can take this one real briefly. The Municipal Alliance Committee has basically a staff liaison, who actually also serves as the chairman. Was appointed by resolution several years ago, and that salary was authorized. But it had never made its way into the borough salary ordinance, as is required to do, and we discovered that. So this is just a simple amendment to the ordinance to make sure that that position title and an appropriate salary range is included.
Very good.
Okay, motion?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes?
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
Final hearing.
October 27th.
21 Code 862. This is a land use and zoning amendment to exempt signs of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Oakland, temporary signs at Bush Plaza.
I appreciate the administration committee looking into this request that I brought up, and I believe this is a reasonable compromise.
So is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes?
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
Okay. Final,
November 23rd.
all right, because that has to go back to
Planning Board.
planning board. It'll be busy. Okay, we have final adoption of 3 ordinances that were introduced. 21 Code 852 is limited breweries. A limited brewery, patrons must complete a facility tour only once a year prior to being eligible to purchase or sample malt beverages produced on site. Their motion to open to the public.
Just so I may, Mayor, that was what was suggested by the planning board, and that's not consistent with the statute.
Oh, that's not good.
So, I mean, this would permit limited breweries in accordance with the statute in the business zones.
So we have to change this.
Well, no, the ordinance
Oh, so
did
the
not,
letter is
the
correct.
ordinance did not make that did not make the revision because we couldn't.
So a limited brewery is a commercial establishment operating with, in accordance with a limited brewery license as defined by the state statute. So they don't have to have a tour once a year?
No, they have to have tours. What the planning board wanted to do was to say, you need to have a tour once a year. At the present time, the statute hasn't been changed, so it says you have to take a facility tour. If the statute changes, then if you're
Right.
taking your
It
tour, you don't
only-
have to worry about it.
Keyword is only once a year.
Oh, okay. So is there a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishes to speak on limited breweries? If there's no one who wishes to speak, motion to close the public.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, does anyone wish to make a motion to adopt ordinance 21 code 852, limited breweries?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Viali.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eyck.
Yes.
Okay, 21 code 853 is the ordinance for a brew pub with a restricted brewery license as defined by the state statute. Your motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
Anyone wish to speak on brew pubs? No one wishes to speak?
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Final adoption, is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Roll call.
Councilman Viali.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eyck.
Yes.
And all of these ordinances about breweries were discussed at depth at the planning board and have been very favorably accepted. 21 code 854 distilleries, craft distilleries and plenary distilleries. So this talks about one tour per year?
This is the same as with the breweries, Mayor. There's a requirement to take the tour where the ordinance shouldn't be changed. It should be adopted as drafted.
All right, a craft distillery, manufacturing facility wherein no more than 20,000 gallons of distilled alcoholic beverages per year are produced and are not permitted to sell food or operate a restaurant on the licensed premises. A plenary distillery is a facility where alcoholic beverages without a limit on quantity are rectified, blended, treated, mixed, and distilled, and as further defined as regulated by the state statute. Your motion's open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone wish to speak on craft and plenary distilleries? Since no one wishes to speak,
Motion?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt 21 code 854 distilleries.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Viali.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eyck.
Yes.
This is incredible, look at all the money that's going to come into Oakland, the
Mhm.
revenues.
The process started when I was in the planning board. That's how long this has been working on this. So
Well,
thank you
that
all.
was over a year ago, so.
Very, very happy. I'm really grateful. This is something that I really care a lot about. So thank you all.
And the planning board was accepted very favorably. Work session items, proposal for housing rehab program services.
Okay, I can handle that one, Mayor. We received a proposal for the housing rehab program. The good news is the borough went through its compliance hearing for the affordable housing on September 30th. We were granted the final judgment. There are certain conditions which we will be presenting to the governing body over the next several months. We have to amend some ordinances, we have to amend our housing element fair share plan. This is another part of that.
we need to have an administrator for rehabilitation programs. The same entity that was retained earlier this year to manage our affordable housing, community grants, has submitted a proposal. The proposal was reviewed both by myself and Mr. Lyden, and we suggest that we award a contract for these types of services to community grants, and this is something that will be paid out of your Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Any questions? Okay, the next is resolution to oppose S3810/A5862, one is State Senate, one is the State Assembly. Do you want to talk about this?
Sure, I can touch on it a little bit. So this was legislation that was brought to our attention by the League of Municipalities. Something that was pending for this whole session and may move during the lame duck session here. So basically, this is legislation that would kind of fundamentally alter the landscape of labor negotiations and labor agreements with public sector bargaining units. And it would do something that would fundamentally shift the kind of the playing field here and give a lot more power to public sector unions and erode the ability of municipalities to really manage our workforce. And that's through a variety of measures, such as, some of this gets a little esoteric, but making permissible subjects of bargaining out of ones that are now not permissible subjects of bargaining, expanding binding arbitration, and shifting the burden of proof in grievance proceedings. Okay, all of this is kind of unprecedented and could really have a deleterious effect on municipalities in terms of trying to contain costs and manage our
It would
organizations.
almost, the unintended consequences, if you want to call it that, it's a term that I like to use for a lot of things that government tries to do, is it will raise costs. It's going to increase costs to the taxpayer. That's what this says.
So the league kind of issued an alert on this and is urging municipalities to adopt resolutions opposing the legislation so that can go into our representatives before they vote.
So last week, when I brought it up,
putting it on the next?
right, so last week when I brought it up via email to a mayor and council president and to Rich, and maybe I copied Brian on it, and this is something that, is really, should be really concerning for all of us here. This is a huge concern. This was to go forward in the legislature. It would have an impact, it's going to be a financial impact on this town.
And the league is right there.
Yep.
Okay, so if anybody have any objections to putting on next week, next council meeting?
Thank you.
All right, then the next one is the mask policy for public buildings. And I asked Richard to put this on for work session because it seems that we have a policy set forth in our municipal buildings, which was a directive from our borough administrator. And I felt that it's important that the council really has the responsibility and the rights to be the ones to set policy within the borough. And I wanted to know how this council feels about the directive on policy on having people wear a mask in municipal buildings of Oakland. So I'm bringing it to the attention of the council and asking for your opinions and suggestions.
I'm totally in favor of the mask policy. As been pointed out, it's really to protect the people who don't wear the mask and who could possibly not be vaccinated and have the virus. So, my almost 40 years in public health has always been when the possibility exists of being exposed to contamination, wear a mask. Now, you do have to wear the proper mask. The mask like I have on is triple layered, and ultimately the best is the N95, ultimately. Then comes the K95. Then comes the triple mask, like the surgical mask like I have on. Just a cloth mask really does not help. This is what I'm told. Whether or not scientifically proven or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, I read two articles were presented to me on masks. One says they don't work, and one says they do work. So I guess 50% of the people, or 50% of science believes it works, and 50% of science says it doesn't work. So I can appreciate the administrator making the policy to protect our borough employees. You know, first of all, we don't want them to get sick, obviously. We don't want them to be out and not able to do their job. And we don't want a potential environment that would cause them to get sick. So I'm in favor of it.
Anybody else?
Yes. I am also, as Pat indicated, I am for the mask policy. I think it comes out from the mandate for schools and the CCC, and Rich has properly introduced it as policy in Oakland at our municipal buildings. And I know I can't go into my office in Hackensack without a mask on. I can't get past a security guard. I can get it into my office, and then I can remove it in my workspace. If I have to go to the men's room, to the kitchen, I have to put the mask back on in general in open space where there are other people, common areas where other people are working, walking, and doing whatever. And I got to tell you something, from my point of view, and I think Mr. Rich over there brought it up, this is good. You have to understand where the governor came from in putting the mandate out there. It's done for the common good of a community, the common good of the state. It's not done hither, and you have to understand, for the greater good here, well, right now, Oakland is moving in on almost 40% of the population are seniors who have underlying medical issues. Seniors are more receptive to the virus because of their age. I happen to be over 60, and I am one of those people. And the other group of people that are not protected are the people 12 and under who can't get a vaccine. Those people are vulnerable as well. So when you put those together, the greater good, that's a lot more than 50% of the population of Oakland that we're trying to protect. I'm trying to protect my family. I have a granddaughter that's going to be 1 year old in about 3 weeks. I don't want her, I'm with the 3, Pat knows, he has one. He's with his granddaughter. I'm with my granddaughter 3-4 times a week. And I would be the last thing in the world. I don't know what I'd do if I contracted it and passed it on to my daughter, my granddaughter. And that goes through the rest of my family units as well. And I just think that we are all responsible for our neighbors. And Rich happens to be a neighbor of mine, and I think we're on the same page here. I mean,
Be narcissistic.
Okay, but I'm just worried about the seniors in town, and I'm worried about the young children in town who don't yet have the availability of the vaccine to protect them. And if you notice, the states that don't have masking issues, masking policies, their virus counts are way above everyone else's.
And
So-
I have one more comment, John, I'm sorry for interrupting, and I'd like Mr. Chukowski's opinion on this. And it is my belief that the legislature of New Jersey gave the governor the Emergency Health Powers Act to promulgate regulations or executive orders, which my belief is that since this legislature gave him the authority, that his executive orders have the same effect of law. Is that correct or incorrect, Mr. Chukowski?
There's debate on that with respect to the effect of law for executive orders, and they left it to the various prosecutors to make that determination. But the executive orders are treated as if they are law. And the Emergency Health Powers Act and the Emergency Powers Act passed that to the governor. New Jersey is one state that hasn't taken it under advisement to review as New York has. So in New Jersey, the governor has that power.
Yes, thank you.
So we can't enforce it.
You really can't.
We can't enforce, you're not wearing
But
a
it's
mask.
for the great, as I said,
We
ma'am.
ask you politely and as a courtesy to wear a mask, but we can't enforce it. Does anybody else
Yeah,
agree with
just,
our administrator's powers?
Just for the policy, whether you agree with the mask or you don't agree with the mask, we hired Mr. Coons to be our business administrator. He gets information from the governor, and he disseminates that information however he feels fit, and as his part of his duty, he feels that we need to follow this policy down from the governor, and it's up to Rich. Rich is running the ship, and that's why we put him there. Agree or disagree, this is why we have
I
Rich.
thought it was important to bring it out in the open.
Exactly.
Anybody else?
So, just a couple questions. We're always seem very quick to put the masks back on. What is the policy that determines when you can take the masks off?
So, the CDC guidance, which is what we're following here, and I want to point this out, that unlike the school mask mandate, which is an executive order, okay, this is not. This is following CDC guidance, OSHA guidance, and the like, as we've done really since the start, in whatever ways we've modified our policies. So, it basically goes according to the transmission rate in the region by county, okay? So if it's high or substantial, according to the CDC, it says recommending masks for those whether they're vaccinated or not in public settings indoors, okay? That's why when you talk about what's a public setting, all right, well, it's when you're in a group, you're in a common area, right? Somebody's sitting at your desk, they don't need to wear a mask. They're getting up, they're walking in the hallway, they're in a meeting room like we are now, you wear a mask. The CDC had relaxed those guidelines in around May, and the protocol had changed. So if you were vaccinated, you didn't have to wear a mask in those settings, right? You still had to do it if you were unvaccinated. And then in late July, they came out with the revised guidance when the Delta surge really started. And so the recommendation is, as long as your region, your county, is considered to have high or substantial transmission, everybody should be masking up in these settings. When that drops back down, you no longer need to do that, and we'll revert back to what it was previously. And right now, I checked again today. I checked frequently. Bergen County is still classified as high. There are some Central Jersey counties, Middlesex, Union, and the like, that have dropped down to the substantial category. So, hopefully we're going to see more of that, and that, as we get further along, the transmission rate will drop further, and we can kind of get out of needing to do this.
So that begs the question, can you just kind of reiterate, if people are in their workspace, I mean, are we using some common sense as we do this? I mean, workspace is considered what, your desk?
Yeah, you're in your desk, you're in your office.
So are we considered in our workspace right now? Are we required to wear masks?
No, this is considered like a public space.
Okay.
So all we can do is request that you wear a mask. We can't force you. We cannot ask you to leave. All we can do is ask you as a courtesy. That's it.
Okay.
I wanted everybody to know that.
Right, and I want to point
That
out.
was important to set out.
And I want to point out too that throughout the whole pandemic, whether it's things that affected the library, the senior center, recreation, as Mike knows, and the programs, there's a lot of things there that we don't necessarily always agree with 100% personally. The overarching goal here has been to try to keep people healthy, keep them safe, and really to minimize the impact on the organization because of quarantine rules and things of that nature as well. And I think that overall we've been very successful. We've had employees that have contracted it, but nobody's contracted it in the workplace, not one person. And in large measure, that's because of the, everything we put in place to deal with it.
Okay. So the next,
I'm just,
sorry.
the opportunity to chime in
Of
on
course.
this, and I have brought it up, and I think if you have natural immunity or you're vaccinated, we should not be requiring people to wear masks. And that's what we did for months, and it all worked out. We all met together at the senior center, maskless, for a few months. Why we went back to masks, I just don't understand.
You know about the Delta variant?
I do, I've heard about this Delta variant.
It started out, people were dying 700 a day, then it went to 1,100, then it went to 1,700, then it went to 1,900, then it went to 2,000 people a day are dying in the United States, mainly because of the Delta variant and unvaccinated people. So if someone is here unvaccinated and exposed to the Delta variant and you don't have a mask on, you can get it. That's why.
So if I'm not wearing a mask and the person has the Delta variant, I thought we were talking about the opposite earlier, that the whole point of the mask is to protect other people. So it would only be if the person with the Delta variant was wearing a mask, it wouldn't matter if I was. That's kind of the opposite of what we've been saying all along.
No, all right, you have a mask on, but someone sitting next to you might not have a mask on.
Right.
So you're protecting them.
So just an
But
example.
I don't have the Delta variant and they do. The point of my mask is only to protect them, but if they have the Delta variant, it doesn't matter, I'm still not protected with this thing on, right?
The bottom line is that Richard Coons set a policy, this council wants to abide by the policy, and sitting up at the dais as a council person, we should set the example. I can't force anybody, I asked the police chief, I've talked to the prosecutor's office. I mean,
So
if you want, we could call the prosecutor's office, but we can't force anyone to wear a mask because it's only a policy.
So we said we've been going, like, Rich mentioned recreation, so I'm the liaison. What we did, because we did not, I strongly disagreed, and still do with many of the guidelines and quarantine and close contacts related to what's going on with those guidelines. We pushed back against that into Bergen County, and there were some changes made there during the basketball season. And that was something that we were able to do as a council. I don't agree with this, with the remasking of all of us in buildings. So.
Well, if you don't want to wear a mask here, you don't have to.
I haven't been wearing a mask, but today I was sent the memo from Brian saying I have to put a mask on up here. So I did.
It just sets the example for everybody else, that we're following the policy set forth by our borough administrator, which is why I wanted to hear from the council. If you are so against the policy from our borough administrator, then
The policy, I believe, should be vaccinated, natural immunity. And even if you have a vaccine, anyone can wear a mask if they want to wear a mask.
But if you say you have to, if you're vaccinated, what are you going to do? Wear it around your neck so everybody sees you're vaccinated? How would people know?
Just don't wear a mask.
But how would people know? How would I know you've been vaccinated?
I want to know too. So,
You don't know, I guess.
No, you don't. That's why we wear a mask.
well,
Well, we didn't
obviously,
wear
we're
a
not
mask for
going to
months.
resolve this. The bottom line
Before the
is, the majority of this council wants to abide by the policies set forth by our borough administrator. Unless you want to vote against that policy, I think it's important that if you're going to follow the policy, we set the example for everybody else being up here. And we're very close together. Otherwise, in the senior center, I felt more comfortable because we're all spread out, but here we are in a
Yes.
closed room, downstairs, close together.
But we didn't have the windows open, Mayor, in the senior
People
center.
were spread out. It was
Kinda.
better. I felt more comfortable.
Kinda.
Psychologically.
Somebody was sitting next to me. I don't know about you, but somebody was sitting next to
This
me.
dais is longer than what we had in the senior
Yeah,
center.
for sure.
Well,
I believe that the policy should be, if you're vaccinated or have natural immunity, any of our police officers, firefighters, if they're in these buildings, they don't need to be masking if they don't want to be.
Does
If they
anybody
want a
second
mask,
that?
they can. If they don't, they don't.
Absolutely not.
Does anybody second that?
No.
I agree, I just want to say I agree with Mr.
Well,
Benek. I think
put it
if
to
you're
vote.
vaccinated.
So let's put it to a vote.
Okay, second.
Let's put it to a
I'll
vote. Councilman Van Eck decided that he doesn't want to abide by the policy set forth by a borough administrator, and feels that if you are vaccinated, I guess you have to show proof. You have to show proof? I don't
Mr.
know.
Van Neck.
Roll call.
So vaccinated or natural immunity, that's what we're saying.
Yep.
So you want to go against the policy set forth by our borough administrator? Okay.
I want to continue the policy that we had a few months ago.
This is the policy we have right now. You want to go against our borough administrator's policy for the safety, and he said why, for the safety of all the employees of the borough. You don't want to have the mandate of wearing a mask in group settings. So, you made the motion.
That's not.
That's not it?
against masks and group, that was really off of what I had initially said.
Well, so you said you don't want to wear a mask if we're in a group setting. So his policy is, if you're in a group setting, you must wear a mask. If you are in your own office, in your own room, at your own desk, you don't have to wear a mask. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And this was for the public safety of the borough employees. Is that the motion?
The motion is that we should continue the policy we had a few months ago, where vaccinated individuals
We're not on that policy.
That's not
did
what.
not have to
that's-
wear a mask.
Is that goes against what Richard Coons set forth as the policy of
Yeah,
today?
but
Is
that's
that
his
correct?
motion. That's his motion.
Is
It
that
could be,
correct?
it could be
Okay.
different than Richard.
All right, and Councilman Kumalo seconded. Roll
Question.
call.
Question. Just don't want to verify Mr. Van Dyke's facts. Is that indeed what the case was, Mr. Coons?
So back in May, the guidance at that point was if you had been vaccinated, you no longer needed to wear a mask, only if you were unvaccinated.
Then,
So that's the
And then,
policy
and
that I
then,
think we should
and
go
then
back to.
it changed again at the end of July
why?
because of the Delta variant, essentially, and emerging research on, breakthrough cases with the Delta variant and the like.
And why did you set this policy?
Again, because it's following the CDC guidance the same way we have since the start.
And OSHA.
And OSHA.
And OSHA, and, really, what's the best approach here to protect the employees?
But we have pushed back against the CDC guidance and recommendations from the county before, as a council.
Before the
Let's
Delta
have a
variant.
vote.
I think what we've done is we've done it administratively, and we've had the discussions, and we didn't need to have a directive from the council telling the administrator what to do. I think it's kind of silly that we're voting on this when this is something that evolves every day, changes, and like I said, we hired Mr. Coons to do a job, and as far as I'm concerned, he does a very good job. And
I agree. He does.
if this is what he thinks he's going to do, then this is where we are. And if he feels that we could amend it somehow and still abide to things, then we will. And
Well, I can tell you, as soon as that transmission rate drops, it's gonna
no
get
one
updated.
wants to
It's
wear
gonna get
masks.
changed.
So you're telling me, as soon as the transmission rate drops, you're gonna drop the masks for
Call
everybody?
for the vote.
Well, if
For
he gets the
people that are,
directive.
for people that are vaccinated.
Okay.
So
All right.
then, you know what, I mean, this is obviously not gonna pass, nobody supports it, so there's no point in even voting.
No.
So are you removing?
That's not true. I'm removing it.
That was
This is pointless.
It's been no motion and seconded.
Let's vote. and
No, there was no, it was whatever mayor went off on a tangent,
You have a motion.
and I did
on
not
the
support
table.
that.
And
Maybe
no, there was a
I-
second.
maybe-
Everybody stop.
We
Attorney,
never had to
we had
say
a
it.
motion on the table and it was
There's
seconded.
gonna be a motion on the table. The only way you get rid of the motion is to withdraw it and have the second withdraw the second.
Withdraw.
Second.
Okay. All right, next item, compensation for DPW superintendent for snow plowing. Are you going to lead this or is our attorney?
All I know is that this was discussed at the last work session, and there was a request made for additional compensation for snow plowing. My understanding is that the superintendent requested that it be acted on publicly, because he asked for that compensation. And it was discussed at the last meeting.
That's essentially, so that's correct.
So
We've
please
talked
give a
about this.
summary.
So we've talked about this previously. The superintendent of public works had previously made a request for compensation for when he snow plows, specifically to compensate him for actually getting into a plow truck and plowing specifically county roads, because that's what he does. And originally, we talked about one method of compensation that really wasn't workable. Council really wasn't in favor of that. We went back, talked about perhaps a different methodology, came up with a stipend amount, looked at what that workload is in an average winter. And I want to point out, when I say average, It can vary greatly from year to year. There really is no true average winter. Came up with an amount for your consideration of $6,000. And you guys had previously decided that regardless of that, we were going to keep our agreement with the county to plow their roads. We thought that that's what was in the best interest of the community. And you asked for additional information on what the comparative cost would be to hire a contractor. Now, when I say contractor, I'm drawing a distinction here between our seasonal snowplow operators that get paid $31 an hour, but actually, because there's a lot of variation there in terms of who's available and when, but actually retaining a contractor, contracting with a company, where usually what happens is you need to guarantee them work during every storm. You usually don't get to pick and choose. And the going rate for that, based on feedback from other communities, is somewhere between $130, $140, $150 an hour, which translates roughly into about $40, or about 40 hours or so of plow, which again, that depends greatly on the winter in terms of whether or not that covers all of our snowplow activities. If you add in salting events and the like, it's very easy to go over that 40 hours in the aggregate over the course of a whole winter season. So that's really the question before you. The superintendent has asked for a decision on that compensation request, given all the facts that you've been provided with.
I think it's important that you tell everybody what it involves, that we plow a county road and we get reimbursed. Where
Yeah.
some towns wait for the county to plow the county road.
Right, so one of the things that we've done for a long time here is we have an agreement with Bergen County. Basically, every truck that plows a county road, we bill out to the county at a rate of $100 an hour, and they also reimburse us for the salt that we use, okay? Over time, we've been able to give, I think, a more equitable amount for the activities that we do. We typically get about 75 ton per storm back in salt, and we also bill out 4 trucks, because we usually have 4 trucks on the county roads. And that's something we found both works for us financially, and also it really helps with the snow plowing. And not to disparage the county, but I think that we're able to respond quicker. We're going over those county roads anyway to get to the different plow sections and our secondary and tertiary roadways, and it's a more efficient way of doing it.
Okay.
So discussion.
Well, I'll bring it up because I've been DPW for 5 years now and co-chair, but I know Anthony does an incredible job for us. And my first question to Rich is, it's not about the person, it's about this. It's about how much we pay now and how much we would pay if we didn't have Anthony doing the roads. So from what your description of outside contractors at $130 an hour, $120 an hour, plus the salt, plus all the time that they would spend on the average year, my thing was, where would we spend more money? Spending it on the outside contractor or Anthony? And like I said, this is not about the person. This is about dollars and cents to the residents. And from what I'm hearing from Rich right now, is that we would spend more money going out to a contractor. If we had to eliminate Anthony's work and send it out to a contractor, I think the $6,000 might be a bargain on some years. Some years it might be even. So I don't remember too many years except for one about 4 years ago when we had very little snow. But that's uncommon in Oakland, as you know. And you have to remember something else. Oakland has always been known that when you're in Oakland, when you hit the Ramapo Valley Road, and it's no longer Oakland, because there's a difference in how the road looks. And this town has had the unique history of always having clean roads, and even people from out of town have come in and said, I know when I get to Oakland, the roads are cleaned. So my feeling is, if that's where I'm saving the tax dollars money by having Anthony do it, I think the $6,000 stipend is well worth it.
But how are we saving money? Because Anthony's there, He's plowing the road.
It's not our, first of all, it's county money. We're
Okay,
paying him with county money.
We're paying him, the county's giving us the $6,000?
No, they're giving us,
So, no, but.
no, they're paying us for plowing
Yes,
their road.
Yeah. So right now, it gets done, right? We don't have to pay outside contractors, and we pay Anthony to plow the roads.
Right.
Well, we don't pay Anthony.
Well, okay.
We don't pay Anthony.
Okay, all right.
Well,
So-
doesn't Anthony
so-
make a
so now
salary
it gets
of
done.
$135,000?
So now it gets done.
He's
Yeah.
an exempt employee.
So
So Anthony says I'm not doing it anymore.
you're allowed to say you're not doing
Well,
something?
it's not as part of his job description, as
But
far
he-
as I know.
But he's been doing it for,
Yeah, I know.
So I guess.
okay,
All right, Kevin, you're down there.
I'm kind of stuck somewhere between the 2 points. I'm a dollars and cents kind of guy. I'd like to save the town, the most money that we can. But at the same time, he's been doing that forever. So, when I'm at my job, I can't just say, hey, I want to do something else, and at the last minute say, I want to get paid extra. My bosses
It would be like
wouldn't go for that.
this for that is what you're describing, Kevin, this
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
All right, yes, we'll go to this end.
A couple questions.
Well, Grant, were you
Okay.
speaking?
No, that was just
It's your turn.
backing up with Kevin, so go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just a couple questions for the administrator. How long has this practice been going on?
Anthony's been plowing roads since he was superintendent.
So going back 20 years? Roughly?
Technically assistant superintendent while Charlie Smiley was here, but essentially running the department, 20 years.
20 years. So may I ask a question? What changed with Mr. Marcuselli wanting to make this request?
I think he's probably the best person to answer that. But as I understand it, it's a matter of, certainly it takes its toll on you. He thinks it's something that he's deserving of based on the, value that he's brought to the table with managing the program, increasing compensation from the county. And it's something that not all superintendents do. And other superintendents from his research, and some of my research too, do get extra money for.
But some don't as well.
That's correct.
Do we have a list of who got extra money?
I did a survey, I got a few responses, like 6 responses or so from the towns in Northwest Bergen. It was about 2 to 1, those that.
But
get
I don't
extra
have the
money.
list.
So I just.
Yeah, it's not a large group of towns that I got
So just
information
a
on.
couple more questions. So I guess if Mr. Marcuselli is a supervisor, ultimately he has the responsibility to backfill his not doing Route 202, and certainly he's got staff and personnel, so certainly he'd be in a position to reallocate his resources to cover it, correct?
He would still be responsible for managing the overall
Right,
snowplow operation.
so at the
He
end of
wasn't
the
gonna
day,
do it.
he's still ultimately responsible for managing all the roads getting plowed in Oakland. If he has to move a resource from the north side of town for a little bit to the west side of town and to get the job done, it shouldn't be an issue.
I mean, I see like the hourly employees would, could get overtime potentially because it's taking them more time to plow the county roads, it still gets plowed. And they're an hourly employee, so if they would get extra hours or overtime as a result of that, that would make sense to me. I mean, I don't know if we could do a cost analysis and, would it factor up to $6,000? And that's $6,000 going to, the rank and file, I say the word guys, individuals. The rank and file individuals who are out in the trucks plowing, for them to receive additional compensation. It'd be great to see those individuals making lower salaries and hourly wages than an exempt employee making $135,000 a year, for that money to go to them for doing that hard work. It's grueling, exhausting work out there.
Who does the brine, during the day when they announce potential storm?
Not sure which employee, I think Scott maybe?
Oh, so it's not Anthony?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
So just one other question. Mr. Coons, obviously you saved the borough a tremendous amount of money with renegotiating the insurance programs and everything else like that. And that's part of your job. How would you feel if you feel you should be compensated for saving the borough money?
Are you making me an offer?
I'm just saying, do you think it's right?
Oh.
Look, there's a lot that I do as the administrator, that results in extra duties, whether it's QPA or stormwater management coordinator now or whatever. I view that as all part of my job, okay? So it's kind of catch-all, it's all in my job description. I think if you're gonna make a distinction here, the role typically for the superintendent is to manage the snowplow operations. I've worked with other superintendents who just would not get into a plow. It was not considered part of what they did, okay? So I don't know if that kind of answers the question, but I think that there can be a bit of a distinction that gets drawn.
Is there a number that we might be more comfortable with? I could see, it's a lot of work, and he has the pride of doing it and doing a good job, and he wants to make sure that it's done. And it's just, it does. He's been doing it, and now he's looking for extra money.
But wouldn't we want our hourly employees who do the extra work to get the?
No, we'd still be,
You'd be losing time.
we'd be losing time.
And the roads wouldn't be as clean as they are right now. It'd be an extra time, extra money, the time spent and the money spent. That's why I said the bottom line here is how much excess money are the taxpayers gonna put out for this, as opposed to if we went out for a contractor and had to do the same thing to get the same results that everyone is happy with right now.
When you put it that way.
But we don't, but
I'd like to make a motion not to move forward with this. Not to compensate Mr. Anthony, not to compensate the superintendent because he's been doing it for the last 20 years. And now suddenly decide to change the rules. I'm really struggling with that. So I make a motion not to give him a $6,000 stipend.
Is there a second? No second.
No
Now what?
second. Is there another motion?
Second.
Oh, now there's a second. So, roll call, we'll start, go ahead.
Councilman Bialy.
The no answer is for not voting against giving him money.
Make the motion.
Let's make it straight, so we understand what we're doing here, because it's a catch-22.
The motion is not to provide additional compensation. So a yes would be no to the compensation.
And then my answer is, my vote is no.
That means you want compensation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes, I am in favor of spending extra money to plow the road for our hourly employees to do that work, to distribute it amongst that stuff.
So,
That's it.
that's
He
it.
has to advise Mr. Marcus.
So you will have to advise.
And Rich, can I ask you a question now that we've gone down this road? If you have to replace Anthony with an outside contractor, it's going to cost us more money for an outside contractor.
But we don't have to, though.
We don't have to do that.
We don't have to do that.
But the roads
Why are
won't
we
be
fixated
cleaned,
on this
the
point?
roads won't be cleaned in as quick a manner as they have been over the last 20
Council Bialy,
years.
the way you've described this is like we're being held hostage, and I don't like that feeling.
It's not at all hostage, and you guys are making it all about the person rather than
Absolutely not.
about how much
No,
money.
absolutely. How dare
Rather
you say
about
that,
how much
Councilman
money we
Bialy.
spend.
How dare you say that?
All right,
Absolutely not.
All right, that's the end of it, it's over. The discussion is over, the vote was taken. Mr. Kunz will notify our DPW supervisor, Anthony Marcuselli. Any new business?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes.
I have some new business. I just want to kind of tee something up that we're going to be putting on the agenda for next meeting. And it really has to do with the deplorable condition of our downtown, all the way from Franklin Avenue
Can I bring that
down to Oak Street. And I know that there's been several attempts to figure out how to really fundamentally change that, from streetscapes to putting in a park and everything else like that.
Well, I've been working on this for like the last 6 months, and, you know, we've really come to the, you know, I've come to the determination that no matter what we do downtown, if we put in new sidewalks or lights, it's not gonna change the character. So I've been working with our borough attorney, I've been working with our other professionals, the planner, and, you know, we've looked at other towns and said, you know, how were they able to really get their downtown going? And what we've come up with is there's a law in place that allows the planning board to go in and holistically look at that entire section and make a determination if it's in a position of rehabilitation. If that's the case, then the governing body working with the planning board can pass an ordinance to incentivize the business through tax rebates to improve the facade, add an addition, and really improve the downtown. So I'm gonna leave it on the table right there, but we had a very positive meeting again today. The mayor was there, Councilman Pignatelli was there, our planner was there, our borough attorney was there, and we'll have a presentation next week, and we'll see if we can move this along.
By the way, Councilman Van Eck was on the planning board last year. Weren't you part of the planning committee?
Yes.
We started this, the planning board has been working. In fact, we have another meeting tomorrow night, again before the planning board meeting. The borough engineer comes, the planning board, the planner comes, Steve Lyden. We do this before every planning board meeting, so we've been working on it.
But I
So
thought it was only streetscape, though.
Don't think that we have not been working on it. Number two, I've talked to the so-called community of commerce, which it's really a chamber of commerce about this, and they have no idea that anybody was even interested in working with them when I spoke with them. So it's something not to rush into right now. You want a presentation? You could do your presentation, but at least give the facts the way they are, and talk to the planning board first. And I will bring this up tomorrow night at our planning board, pre-planning board meeting, to tell them that here we've been working over a year, and then you just come up with something out of the blue. I guess it's that time of year. But I will certainly bring this up at the planning board committee meeting tomorrow night before the planning board, and we'll see what happens. But let's see what happens.
Mayor, I was at this meeting today, and
Well, you were invited. I wasn't even invited.
I'm not going to get into who was invited and who wasn't invited. All I can say is, I was at this meeting today, and from what I understand, the planning, I could be wrong, the planning board you were working with the planning board on streetscape. This is not streetscape. This is a way to incentivize the owners of property in the downtown area to improve their property so that we don't have 8 different buildings looking 8 different ways. Some of them not work, some of them looking a little dilapidated, some may be up to date. But this program sets out specifically step 1 through step 11 on how to incentivize property owners to invest in their property, to make the property look a certain way so that people want to come here to shop. Our businesses will start to thrive. We'll start to have additional money from the businesses. So this is a concept. It's nothing yet to be presented to the planning board. This is a concept
You want
for
to
us to
present
look
it
at.
to the council next month.
Correct.
Right.
Have you talked to
But then
the
other
officers?
it will eventually go to the planning board according to this method of improving the downtown area. It will go to the planning board. But let's face it, everything is driven from the council, not from the planning board. The council will decide which way to go and how to do it, and then ask the planning board, authorize them to go ahead and study it and come up with recommendations. If they say no, well then maybe we wouldn't do it. But they may say, you know, this is a viable program. It will bring more businesses into town. It will allow our existing business owners to make more money and invest more money
Now,
in
you
the
were
town.
invited to the
With-
meeting,
with
but
tax
somebody from
savings.
our finance,
I wasn't
He was
able
on the
to.
road.
Oh, you were invited?
I wasn't able to attend.
I wasn't even invited. I found out offhandedly and mentioned it to our borough attorney, and he said, oh yeah, they asked for a meeting.
It's a wonderful plan that uses tax incentivization to upgrade and
It
revitalize
probably
our
came from you
downtown.
then.
I make a motion to extend the meeting for 15 minutes as
Oh,
long
it's 10 o'clock.
as long as everyone keeps their comments to half of what they would normally say.
I think you're being very optimistic.
And this will be the third time that I've made this this motion at
All right,
different
second,
meetings.
is there a second?
And
All in favor?
and it's
We
ridiculous.
have till 10:15. All right, any other new business?
No, just let's comment. Are we commenting? It
No,
just
we're
seems
not commenting at this time.
we're not commenting
You
on
want to comment,
downtown?
wait till it's your turn. Any other new business?
Yes, Mayor. Rich, I brought it up at the last council meeting. Island Terrace, the project we have going in, adjacent, across the bridge. I spoke to some people down there, and there's a feeling that there might be more than 50% of the people on Island Terrace, and whether it's 12, 13, or 11 people, that they might be in favor of getting water service there, because I've heard some horrible stories about where water is coming from right now, and it might not be sanitary, but I hope that we can address each one of the residents, let them know that we're considering bringing the water line across the bridge and into their backyard for pickup at a date when that project can make it there. But we need their responses to understand if we should extend the contract of that we're on the street right now to bring the new water main in.
What's the idea about a hydrant? That could be the important factor.
So if I can, we are out to bid for the water main replacements on Doty Road. If it is something that we can feasibly do in that contract to stub it out to Island Terrace so that we would not need to go back and rip up Doty Road, we will certainly do that. We're going to need to see what the bid prices are that we get in.
Right.
I did follow up with the resident that had contacted us recently and explained the situation. I had been in contact with another resident over the summer, provided information on the cost estimate, hadn't heard anything since August, but that we were more than happy to sit down and talk about it. And I asked him to give us some feedback, about that, so we could hopefully move this forward.
Okay, yeah, I'd rather see people with suitable, safe water than going to their means. I know there are a lot of, you hear a lot of stories, you don't know what to believe, that the well drilling trucks won't go across the bridge, but our fire department can go across the bridge. So I think there's some stories in there that are not making much
They
sense.
said this would be the right timing.
But if
because of
we're
the
gonna
limit.
do a water system to supply water to those residents now, I think that's the proper time to do it, being we're doing the project already.
It's the perfect timing. If we're gonna do it, this is the timing.
Exactly.
All right, anybody else with new business? Old business?
I have some old business. One, since we're back here, I've been bringing it up since we were here. The picture frames, they're falling out.
You don't
but-
like the
They're still
photos
hanging
falling?
halfway out.
Yep, I've been bringing that up since I
I
started.
remember him. I
last
moved to town when he
January
was the mayor.
2020. And then adding the two mayors that are not up here.
One refused, I thought.
So if I can, we do have a nice picture for one of the former mayors.
Yes.
We still need.
Which one?
John Zebo.
Because the other one, I heard the one his picture.
And that, I know Grant has a contact there, but we don't have his yet. We also have a plaque with all the mayor's names on it. We were waiting to get back here where everybody was comfortable kind of doing an unveiling. And I believe Mike had done some research on the cost of reframing, which was actually not cheap at all to do, unless you're going to get some low-quality frames, which may be an option, but something we need to discuss
Somebody
further.
tape his
You're
picture.
better off doing
though?
it right.
Tell me what?
Can someone tape his picture back up?
Yeah, at
Yeah,
least
it
make
should
it
be
look
just be
good.
fixing it up and-
He's been hanging halfway on an angle for the last
And
12
same thing with
years.
that guy over there.
Mayor Curley.
Which one?
Yeah,
Oh, over here.
he's here too, yeah.
All right, so I'll follow up with you, Rich, on the one that we don't have a picture for. At a minimum, we should get the other one up and have a little
And
unveiling.
tape those pictures
This
up.
mayor over here that's on an angle, every time I look on him, he reminds me of William Bendix from The Life of Riley. And it looks just like him.
Then the other
Maybe
thing
he's
that I wanted to
related.
bring up is the traffic study, but I saw Mr. Yukimic has left.
He's not feeling well.
Yeah, he wasn't feeling
Okay,
well?
all right. Thank you. I'm gonna recall. Thank you.
Any other old business?
So used to bringing it up every meeting. Thank you.
All right, council committee reports. Councilman Van Eck?
Really quick, for the
And
sake
yes,
of time.
because otherwise Councilman Talamini will be upset.
For the sake of time, all the volunteers I get to work with, you are the heart, the beating heart that pumps life into our community. The friendships and relationships I've formed since taking this job are the greatest thing and the most rewarding thing about being up here. Thank you and God bless you all. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Wow, that fast.
Next.
Okay, just the green team had a meeting, and they wanted me to share here's the following output from that. They're wrapping up a successful year of the, let me take this off. They wrapped up the successful year of the community garden with 150 pounds of produce, and they were all donated to local families in need. The pollinator garden planting in Great Oak Park will be on the weekend of October 23rd and 24th from 10 to 4. Look for a registration evite on the town website. Oakland is also hosting a styrofoam drive January 8th. The first hour is open to residents only, and then open to the rest of the county. Green Team, in cooperation with the Oakland Community of Commerce, is launching a styrofoam-free business program, which you heard about today. And also, the Green Team is currently discussing with the Recycling Coordinator DPW on creative solutions to how to work with styrofoam recycling in the town. That's all I have under that. Also, under Great Oak Park, myself, the Borough Administrator, Mr. Guadagnino, met about the band shell meeting. As you just heard, we just received $40,000 money from the county. And so right now, we are targeting possibly breaking ground sometime in January, February, and hopefully we'll have our band shell up for the summer festivities. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Next. Councilman?
Yes, I have a memo from Ariel at the Senior Center. We have brought back our walking club with Wednesday walks. Every Wednesday, 9:30 a.m., we will be walking around the Path and Recreation Complex. Program will be canceled for inclement weather. Through the Bergen County Senior Services, we will be hosting a podiatrist who will be offering routine services such as nail clippings and callus care at the Senior Center on Friday, October 22nd from 9 to 11 a.m. by appointment only. There is no cost to the senior. Anyone interested in participating should call the office to sign up. The Senior Center 30th Anniversary Luncheon will be held Tuesday, November 9th from 12 to 3. Limited space is available. Cost is $10. Includes a buffet luncheon. To register, please call the Senior Center. I encourage everyone to take their flu shots this year. The seniors will be, the Senior Center will be having their senior shots tomorrow. Unfortunately, it's the next day. But if you want, you can call Ariel in the morning to sign up for an appointment. Just remember, 30 to 50,000 people a year die from influenza, mainly senior citizens. So this is not a joke. Take the senior shot, and if you're so inclined to take the vaccination for COVID, you could do that also.
You mean the flu shot?
The flu shot, and if you want other places to sign up and get.
Oh, because you said the senior shot, but you said
Yeah.
the flu shot. You meant the flu shot.
Yeah, but if they want COVID shots, they could do that also someplace else.
I want you to know I got the booster at
Yeah.
Walgreens right in town. And
Yes.
it was wonderful. You sign up, you register.
We did have a traffic meeting. This is something that I brought to the council 3 years ago, that we haven't had a traffic study in 25 years, so now it's 28 years. We finally have some information presented to Boswell Engineering and the traffic expert that they have on staff. The mayor was there, Councilman Kamala was there, I was there, our administrator was there, chief of police was there, our traffic officer was there, Officer Rowan. We made some recommendations. He's going to take those recommendations and try and plug them into a active, what do you call that? Simulation.
They had an unbelievable simulation. You see the cars going by.
Yeah.
They had all the cars
So
going.
there are two drawbacks, though. Number one, the state DOT and 287. State DOT is interested in moving traffic on 287 and getting traffic off 287 into local towns, and they don't care where the traffic goes after that. So that's going to be a problem. The other one is the county. Now, the county has been cooperative in the past. We hope to get them to cooperate a little bit more and help us with the traffic problem here in town. We're going to continue to meet and come back in a month for another meeting to plug in our suggestions.
I'm
For
sorry.
the first aid, they had 54 calls in September and they drove a total of 977 miles. And, you know, that's almost two calls a day.
Wow.
That's it, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the first aid squad. But just so you understand the problems we have with 202. 202 at Franklin Avenue, the county controls that light. 202 and the 287 exit, the state controls that light. 202 and West Oakland Avenue, the state controls that light because of the railroad.
202 and Oak
West
Street.
Oakland Avenue and 287, the state controls that light. And 202 and Oak Street, the county controls that light. So, as we were led to believe, everybody's gonna have to work together.
Can I just?
Can it ever be put under one jurisdiction? The whole thing with two jurisdictions is really the issue.
Well,
We don't have that kind of power.
you know, what we did about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we had the state come in and they integrated a computer in each one of the traffic boxes and they used the world clock satellite as a determining factor to try to control, but no one ever maintained it because every time a railroad came across, it threw the whole system out of whack and it rescheduled itself at 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's got to be
Grant,
looked at
I'm
again.
counting you to get us that power.
So, but there's one thing that did come out of that meeting, sorry to interrupt. What we did learn was, you know, we've talked about, or Councilman Van Eyck talked about the adaptive traffic control devices, and the engineer was very adamant in the fact that there's no way that that can be adapted for Oakland with the situation we're in with the highway. So it's a non-starter, unfortunately.
It's a great program if we could do it, and I'm not gonna give
Okay.
up.
If we have 3 minutes and 3 people left.
Okay, pedestrian safety sidewalk improvement from Navajo to Thunderbird, the contractor is scheduled to start construction November the 1st. Digital sign, we looked at renderings. We have renderings from Boswell's office, and we are going to use the stonework to enhance the bottom of it. And we can come up a little bit, and then, no, the mayor mentioned it looked naked as it was presented, but we can come up a little ways, as long as we stay away from the sides of the sign, because you have to get in there for mechanical and electrical service at some time or other, and that's how you get in through the little
I
signs.
think I used the word there rather than.
You did use something with no clothes on. And the historical and cultural, Rich and I and the mayor met with Margaret Hickey on a Zoom call, and we have a rendering of what the new proposed building would be. We made some dominant changes, and they had a bathroom in the middle of the first floor, which took up all the room because of a little kitchen location, stairwell, and the entrance into this thing took up half the room on the first floor. So we moved the bathroom we're going to incorporate it into the garage back by the Van Allen house and have it service both the Van Allen people and the people who are using the new building. And we've opened it up a great deal, and Margaret's going to come back with a new rendering of the first floor. And the second floor is kind of opened as well. So hopefully, and I was in touch with Judy Gray. She's going to join us for the next meeting.
Excellent, she's good.
That's it.
Oh.
Over and done. What decommissioning project? We're going to start. We're going out to bid October 21st or thereabouts, right, Rich? Okay.
All right, so do you want to make a motion for 5 more minutes? Russ?
No, not me.
Oh, you have a minute?
We can do it quick.
Can you do it in a minute?
Yeah.
The Oakland Public Events Committee is having the Halloween Parade, probably our best event. 10 o'clock on October 30th at Valley Middle School. They line up. If you got there around 9:30, it's probably better. The parade starts at 10, and there'll be trick or trunk. You go and you get your candy, and you can get a pumpkin to decorate. And we're thinking rain or shine. They're not. The school is allowing us to use the cafetorium, but the committee was saying it probably with COVID restrictions it'd be too difficult. So it's probably going to be outside. Maybe it'd be you go drive by in your car and you pick up your pumpkin and go. But we're hoping for good weather.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Really quick. Thank you, Mayor. Library update. The air conditioning installation is wrapping up and should be completed soon. I've been asked to remind everyone that the library is open every Sunday from 1 to 5. And lastly, the OPL is currently in the process of building a library of things, as many other libraries have done across the state and country. This will allow patrons to check out items like video game consoles, sewing machines, a VCR, and so on from the library. This is just in the opening planning stages, but the program should be live by January.
Great, thank you. Bills to be paid.
Bills to be paid, $348,460.60. So moved.
Second.
If everybody read the bills list, you can vote. Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
Motion to close.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next meeting is October 27th, October 27th, right here in council chambers.
Store the thing on your left. All right, I had 3 in the opera.
It's not, I'll tell you what happened. I fell down my step.